Bolt your windows. Lock your doors. Check your closets. Look under your bed. And then prepare yourself. For it's another episode of Dark Night of the Podcast.
Mama's home, everybody. Mama's home. I had to take a couple of weeks off, unexpected. Sometimes you get little opportunities. You got to thank the Lord for them. And I was really very excited to accept a role in a fine independent production. And I said, yes, I'm going to take it. So Troy was so kind and generous to give me a couple weeks here to go, pursue a project. We shared that wonderful Clue episode that I love so much that I listened to the whole thing 2 times over, laughing at you and me, just laughing. Nobody else out there may be laughing, Troy, but I'm laughing every time. That's that episode. Woo! I'm so happy that you picked that one.
Oh my God, I just forget how many great, and I'm not just saying this, but I forget how many great episodes that we have on Patreon, because when I was trying to figure out what episode to pick, I was going through and re-listening to a lot of them, and I was like, oh my God, I can't decide which one to do. I wanted to do Return to Oz. I wanted to do Obsessed. I wanted to do Cat's Eye, which is hilarious. But Clue, I think, was the perfect one, because the reason I decided on it is because it's unlike anything we would release on our regular feed, right? We stick to horror, like straight-laced horror. Clue has horror elements. It's not a horror movie. It's a comedy. So I thought, you know what? This will show our listeners some versatility, because, I'm versatile.
Which we got plenty of. You and me both, sister. You and me both. Or so they say. But I stand by, I think a lot of people think like Patreon, you're going to get something that's like tossed to the wayside and that's like the scraps. No. And I stand by it. Some of our finest moments, our fucking best moments, that Uncle Sam, that was originally a Patreon. That whole bit with the stilts to this day is like one of my favorite conversations I've ever had. And that was originally a Patreon. So, our Patreon, the structure has changed a little bit. There's some material in there that every once in a while we like to share with you because it's been there for a minute. We want you to know what you're missing. Just know that we're still dropping gems, though. We're still dropping gems all the time on the Patreon. Troy spreading his wisdom about true crime. If there's one fucker that knows a lot of shit about true crime, it's this guy. If that's your cup of tea, waddle on over to that Patreon. Ain't that right? Isn't that right, Troy?
Oh yeah, I because we want to mix it up. So yeah, check out our Patreon. It's a price a cup for the price of a cup of coffee,
which is $8.
I know. Right now, it's going to get worse too. Tariffs from Colombia. Woo!
My Lord,
be prepared. But you know what? I am really glad, Roger. I'm going to stop and say this: that you had the opportunity. Now, here's the thing. If I was an actor, if I could act, I would love to have the opportunity that you just did to work on a very, I'm going to call him a dear friend, because I've met Chris before at Texas Frightmare Weekend, and I've been a guest on their podcast, him and Kevin's podcast, Homos on Haunted Hill, which I believe is on a little bit of a hiatus now. And he's been a guest on this podcast when you were away filming other things. It is Chris Moore, who I adore, and I love his movies, and you just had the opportunity to work on his next film.
I'm so thankful to have that opportunity. Honestly, thank you for saying this about him, because if you wouldn't have said it, I would have, because I just want to share, you meet a lot of cool people as a filmmaker. You meet a lot of cool people doing a podcast if you keep doing it, and before I'd ever talked to Chris, I knew him like through social media, but I had seen A Stranger Amongst the Living at Days of the Dead Atlanta. I think it was maybe 2018, 19, around there. So like you realize how long these personalities have been like in your orbit. You may not have met them in person, but like I've always found it really intriguing that he's kind of a self-sustaining filmmaker, that he gets his work done and he gets a lot of it done. This is film like number 7 for him. And this is why I think they're taking a little bit of they're stepping back from the podcast a bit to let him pursue a pretty big endeavor. So I just got to say, like, right off the bat, like, I was really fucking impressed with how he ran his set. It's a small team, it's a small crew, but he works alongside some wonderful people. Rivers Ash Productions was co-producing this production. And he's CWM Entertainment. Yes, Christopher Wesley Moore Entertainment. So CWM Entertainment. So those two working like side by side, like, oh my God, like every set was just smooth as silk. And when you have a good experience like that, you wanna take a moment to acknowledge it. So I was kind of blown away by how well it was handled. And it's just so great to see a fellow filmmaker, queer filmmaker, on a similar scale as like what we're doing, who is just like, making it fucking happen. Like, there's not a lot of us, but any chance that we have to support each other, especially right now, I was just grateful to be able to be part of this very queer project because it is extremely queer. The story is extremely queer, and that's empowering right now. And I'm just happy to be involved with it. So I'm thankful to him, and we very much enjoyed his podcast. And
Yeah.
I'd love for them to come back, but right now they're pursuing some creative endeavors that I think have taken the forefront, and I'm excited to be part of one of them.
Yeah, you know what, Christopher, I loved his first film, Bluster the Children. It screened at Motor City Nightmares the same day that my very first film, Party Night, screened. And that's kind of how me and him started to have a conversation because he could not attend. And I watched the film and I immediately messaged him telling him how much I loved the film and how the audience reacted to it. And I do love the fact that his films deal with different themes and much like myself, I think, his films are getting progressively gayer as they go along. And, his films have like dealt with a lot of controversial themes, gay conversion therapy, abortion. And I love now that he's taking on a very queer story, which makes me really want to get Hollow Lake out there even sooner because we have talked about this, Roger, for years about how there are so many gay filmmakers out there, but none of them in recent years were really focusing on gay themed material. And now it seems like they all are. So I think you're going to be at the forefront with me. But I mean, Hollow Lake is right behind there because I want to be like, I don't want people being like, oh, look at, he's copying. It's a fad now to release a heavily queer film. No, Hollow Lake, we need to get it out there so that it's above that, because I think there is going to be an explosion. I think queer artists are heavily motivated by what's going on in our society right now, and they are going to make their work queer as fuck. And we both know
Yes.
Meat is queer as fuck. Hollow Lake is queer as fuck. So we need to get them out there. Chris needs to get his stuff out there. I know Joshua Pangborn just filmed. We need to get that stuff out there because, yes, we need it desperately more than ever.
We're all very interconnected. Like when one of us succeeds, like we all succeed. Like that really is because it's a small, tight-knit group of people, but forming these connections, it's so motivating. And I want to see everyone succeed. And Meat is, I got to say right now, Meat does have a premiere looming. Meat is coming up on June 12th. I'm saying it here in Cleveland, Ohio. There will be some announcements coming soon. I don't want to make a big thing out of it right now because we've got a movie to review. But please know that if we're talking queer cinema, and it's been taking a long time, the whole length of this podcast, like we've around the same time, these things started cooking and to have it over a period of years build up to what is now going to be our official premiere. You guys have been counting down to it. Get to Cleveland, June 12th. You'll be hearing more information soon.
Yeah. Guys, if you're around the Cleveland area and you've been following Roger's journey with Meat, you definitely are going to want to check it out. I'm going to try he just told me the date before we started recording. So I'm going to look at flights and see if there's any possible way I can make it because I will be off for the summer. So I have all the time in the world to travel and I would love to get back to Cleveland. I had such a great time filming Hollow Lake there last year. I'd love to get back. I loved the whole vibe of the city and the little area that you live in was wonderful. I miss it. I'm going to try to get back, but yeah, we have to get back on track and really talk about the matter at hand, Roger.
and what a matter that is. Like, oh boy, we're coming back strong.
Yeah. This is a film that it was on my list, and I guess last time we recorded, I was just scrolling through and I was like, okay, I'm just going to pick it. We're discussing the 1992 slasher-esque film, Mikey. Now, if you have not seen Mikey or you've never heard of Mikey, it's on Tubi. I would implore you to check it out. It is a part of the slasher subgenre that I would say is killer kids, right? And I think we've only covered maybe one other Killer Kid episode, and that was The Children. Have we talked much about Killer Kids lately? How do you feel about Killer Kids, Roger?
Killer Kids. I mean, I feel like if I feel a certain way about Killer Kids, it's either one extreme or another. If you give me a movie like Orphan, which was drenched with like melodramatic, like just like it was very intentional what it was doing, I'm sold. I'm sold. And especially the follow-up, which isn't technically a Killer Kid, but the second Orphan film I think was phenomenal, nonetheless. But then there are also a lot of these films where, because of the limitations when working with children, I think a lot of times these movies tend to like feel the need to hold back, and like understandably so. But like if I am sold with a Killer Kid film, it is a tiny child wielding a chainsaw hacking people in half, and you're seeing it. Like I want you to lean all in if you're gonna go Killer Kid. And like with this movie, when you shared this with me, and I knew nothing about this film at all. I don't even know if I've ever seen a visual. I cannot recall. Probably not. When this came up, I kind of was like, oh, okay. From the era, I was expecting a Good Son ripoff. And, joke on me looking into this further, this technically came the year before The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin, which has several, obviously a lot of themes. It's handled with a lot more maturity and like and a cinematic eye that Mikey doesn't possess. But what Mikey does possess is, when it comes down to like what it's trying to deliver, like does it hold back a bit? Yes, but does it shockingly kind of just go for it and like do some things that actually did kind of shock and surprise me? Actually, yes. Like there are some things that happen in this film, some things that happened in the opening scene of this film that for me as a first time viewer, I was like, oh, okay. Like they're not scared to go there with this movie. And I think I come off of this viewing, and again, as a first time experience, I come off of this feeling, kind of pleasantly surprised by Mikey. And if you're going to go Killer Kids, like his is a bitchy little personality that like, I'm like, okay, you know what? You're getting the job done. You're getting the job done. You got a head count. Like you're not fucking around, little man.
No, and I hadn't seen this film since probably the year it came out. I remember, when this film came out, I was much younger. Myself, I was probably in high school, and I just remember, I don't think it made a theatrical release. If it did, it was super limited, but it did go to direct to video. But there was a little bit of a buzz around it or controversy around it because of the actor who portrays Mikey, Brian Bonzel. At this point in his short career, he had been known as like the sweet kid. He played Andy Keaton in the sitcom we all know and love, Family Ties, Michael J. Fox. He was like the new young son in Family Ties. And so that's where people knew him. And he also played Lieutenant Worf's son in Star Trek The Next Generation. Two very like sweet young, even though Alexander in Star Trek The Next Generation is kind of annoying, still a kid with a kid's personality. So taking this young actor who was known as playing Andy Keaton and putting him in this role and then opening the film the way it does, which I remembered very little about this film. The only scene I really remembered was the hot tub scene with the boyfriend. Everything else was kind of left my memory. So watching this again was almost, Roger, like watching it for the first time. And I gotta say, like this opening scene, I mean, I don't know what more you want in a Killer Kid film because it goes there. It goes there. I mean, I was pleasantly shocked.
It goes there. It really does. Like you took the words out of my mouth. It goes the places you kind of like coming up on this opening sequence, the things you think, no, they can't go there. They won't go there. It does. And it's not quite enough to like really be repulsive, but you see just enough for it to like kind of sit with you for a moment. Like after what happens in this opening moment, which we're about to get in to Mikey, let's be clear, like it's obviously happening. Once you go into this, and I think you have certain expectations and it surpasses your expectations. And it's something that it continues to kind of do as the film goes on. Not glaringly, you're not getting these big explosive moments of just intense gore, but there's consistently moments throughout this film that kind of almost like take your breath away. And it is because, like, I have to say, the devotion of the child actor to some of these darker moments. He's such an adorable little dumpling, missing teeth and button eyes. And when he smiles, he looks so pleasant. But, like, when it comes to some of these moments, because he's such a cute little child, it does make it feel very dark. There's this darkness to this movie that can't be denied, and I think, like, if you're gonna have that taboo element of a killer kid film, like, they're not leaning into the humor of it, you know? They're not making it a shtick. Like, the furthest they go is, like, they've got a bit with him with, like, a bow and arrow, and he's cracking a couple of one-liners, but they're all coming from a very, like, morbid place. Like, this child is very intelligent, and the things he says are more to be, like, jabbing, prodding at those that the prey that he's taunting. Like, the way he approaches killing people, he takes an element of pleasure out of it that does make him, like, actually feel kind of, like, quite formidable, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has an intelligence level that is beyond anything I would imagine for a kid his age to come up with some of these elaborate schemes that he does. And he never. The one thing I appreciate about this film is like he never comes across as being like I never am like annoyed with the characters. That makes sense. A lot of like killer kids movie, I find the kids generally annoying. Like they're sinister throughout the film, and it's just like, oh, this little brat. He never really goes there. Most of the time, he is, in a sense, trying to be a quote unquote normal kid. It's just like circumstances take him to a place where he feels he has no choice but to murder his family. But you also, as we go along with the film, you also have to suspend a lot of belief in this film because some things are just too out there to be believable. Yeah, this opening scene, guys, again, if you haven't seen Mikey, stop, watch it on Tubi real quick. It's a quick watch and then get back because, yeah, there's some spoilers here. The opening scene, it's, he's a little boy in the garage playing with matches. How many of us haven't done that as little boys, Roger?
I was naturally flaming myself. There was no need for matches.
You didn't even need the matches. But that mother comes in and is like immediately starts yelling at him. We told you to not play with matches. And there's this little girl, his little sister, next to him with the doll, and he is basically saying that it was her idea. And Mikey says, "Tell her, Beth. Tell mom it was your idea." And the little girl's just like, "I ain't saying shit." And the mom like slaps this kid hard. I was like, oh, the shit you could get away with in the early 90s that you probably couldn't get away with now. I mean, she socks this kid hard. Of course, he screams at her that he hates her and he doesn't care about him and that she's not his real mother. And, the mother's like, oh, shut up, you little shit, and goes upstairs to take a bath. Well, the little girl goes into the kitchen to eat some cereal. And he comes in and confronts this little bitch about, you should have stuck up for me. You are my sister. What the fuck? And she's like, you aren't my real brother. Shut up and leave me alone. So he grabs this girl's doll and like runs outside, and they have a beautiful pool. And you are imagining like, is this going where I think it's going to go? No, they are not going to kill this little cherubic looking girl. But he lures her to the edge of the fucking diving board and throws her doll out into the pool, and this little girl is desperately trying to like hang over the diving board and reach for it. And you're like, is he really gonna do? He starts jumping on yes, the little girl tumbles into the pool and she fucking drowns. And this is in the first 3 minutes of the film. A 4-year-old child is drowned in the swimming pool.
I would have loved to have been the people that like protested this film coming out. Who, the people are already protesting it because they're like, a killer child, how foul. How foul. Then they go to the film, and within fucking 5 minutes, you're killing a younger child. Like you are watching a tiny, like what is she, maybe like 3, 4. She's probably like around 4, a 4-year-old baby. She's on the edge of the fucking. At the edge of this fucking diamond board. She's holding on. She's like, stop it, please. Begging for her life. And then she just like a bag of sand. She just goes into that pool. And my jaw was like, and I was like, that mom in the slut heels, the red slut heels, she's got to come running out. She saves her or something. And no, you just see this tiny little girl. They clearly got a swimmer, but like she's there. She's screaming for her life. She's screaming out his name. And then she she's floating, and then you don't see it, but you hear the sound of as she goes under, and you're like, oh my God, did they just kill this tiny girl? But then to raise the bar, and this was really surprisingly shocking to me, they have a beat here in a moment where they cut back to the visual of this tiny little girl, dead body floating in the pool, twice, and I was like, ooh, that sticks with you. That visual really sticks with you. It's a manner of death for this child that is entirely plausible. It's not like he came in and fucking shot the little girl or stabbed her to death. No, like he literally, like he did something that happens to kids every day.
Oh.
How often do you hear stories of children falling into a pool and drowning? And the visual of like of the one parent eventually coming home and seeing that, I thought was really impactful. And for that to be so early in the film, Troy, my jaw was on the floor. I'm not gonna lie, I was really thrown off by it. Honestly, it totally went somewhere I did not think it would go.
Well, and it is, I was going to say, it is the shot of the dead body floating in the pool that I think cements the shock value. Like I think a lot of filmmakers would not have gone there and not shown that, like heavily implied it. But no, this film shows her little body like floating dead in the pool a couple times. And you're like, wow. Wow. Yeah. And there's that moment you really think the mother's going to come rushing in and saving the day and like beat the shit out of Mikey some more. But no, this broad is up in the fucking bubble bath, oblivious to what's going on, chatting away on the phone. And I don't know who she's talking to, but she's like, yeah, I think it was a mistake adopting him.
I get it at this point.
Well, yeah.
I mean, like clearly, Chaperone's getting heat from parents right now. This is relevant, say because she said that everyone she knows who has a child is fucking miserable. But after seeing this movie, I believe it. A lot of kids act like this. My God.
Yes. If you have a child, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I don't get it. I don't get gay men that want children. I'm not, if you have it, great. I'm glad that you love your child and you're given a child, but I don't understand it. Like, I could not even imagine having a child. Like, no, I don't want kids. So it's really hard for me to see all these gay men. They're like, oh, we need to adopt a baby. Why? It's going to kill you. It's going to electrocute you in the fucking bathtub. Like what happens to this broad. He comes in and how uncomfortable. This little child walks in on nude women all the time. I mean,
and they always, the women look so vulnerable. They're sitting there holding their knockers in their arms, covering themselves. Be like, Mikey, please leave me be. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, Mikey, don't look at me like that. And this guy, the thing about this kid more than anything is like when he looms over women, he looks like a real fucking creeper. Like he knows this kid is evolved and he's lusting after these women, just glaring at them with dead eyes. And oh my God. It is a creepy visual to see this child hovering over top of broad. just
a topless broad in a bathtub.
A nude woman in a bathtub who has no way of defending herself, and he does it all the time. Sick. He is sick. We knew this was going to be a good one, but I didn't know this was going to be the film Troy to get where he needed to go, because let me tell you, this kid has so many elements. There's so many elements of this child that cement for me, and I should be saying this, my partner wants children so bad, but cements for me, I'm like, there is no way in hell I would put up with the shenanigans that these fuckers, that these parents deal with. Like, and they keep giving this kid excuses, being like, oh, he's been through trauma.
We are going to talk.
No.
We will talk about this. That's a big thing. We will talk about how we're going to get there. But yeah,
we're going to get there.
First of all, yeah, before you have children, you have to realize how much it's going to end up in your life. Like, you are not going to be able to just like, oh, I'm going to go have a drink tonight. Nope, you have to. And then to worry about it killing you while you're in the bathtub. That's a whole different level of like responsibility that I don't want anything to do with. I am perfectly content being able to do what I want without worrying about this child walking in when I'm in the fucking bubble bath. Because here's the thing.
In the bubble bath. Some of you are built for
Covering my knockers.
Please get out. If you're built to have kids don't let us take your joy. God bless you for doing the Lord's work and reproducing, which we do require. So I find it admirable. But this kid really makes it look like a pain in the ass to have a child.
Yeah. But yeah, first of all, he did something because he cuts the phone line. We have to acknowledge he is smart enough to cut the phone line, because when she's talking to her friend, talking about how she regrets adopting him, the phone goes dead. And then, yeah, he comes in and he's looming over her, and the camera does this really great thing where they do make him like it's upward looking at him to make him look a lot more intimidating than what he is. And he's hovering over her and she's just trying to like cover her tits and shit. And I mean, he's like, you don't love me. You never loved me. And then he picks up that fucking hairdryer. And he's like, what would happen if I threw this into the bathtub? And she's like, Mikey, that's not a toy. Put it down. He says, gladly. And this fucker launches this hair dryer into this bathtub, electrocuting this poor bra who is just trying to enjoy a bubble bath.
This poor woman has no idea what's about to happen, and she catches it in her hands, but since she's wet, I'm guessing it sets it off. And listen, one of my greatest fears, one of the most horrific aspects of the 80s and 90s is the amount of things that were plugged in that should not have been near running water. It happened all the time. So there's a lot of electrocutions in this film. They're not done to an extent that they're so over the top that it's like cringy. Like you get a moment where you see like the flashing and everything, but they play it pretty. Everything they do in this film, they try to keep it kind of grounded, and I think that is in its favor because this could have been really comedic. I think to electrocute a woman like that, but it doesn't feel that way. You just see her shake, and then she just kind of drops into the water, and then you get some actually kind of nasty like a reveal, like later on, you get a bit of a reveal of her charred body, and it doesn't look too bad, especially for being in water. It actually looks kind of gnarly.
Yeah, but I mean, it is repeated several times, but I do feel like it's sort of realistic that this little boy would figure out that if you throw something into water, it's going to electrocute people. So then that would be one of his go-to methods to try to dispose somebody. Because as a little kid, you're a little boy, you're fascinated with that sort of thing. So it kind of, I do like the fact that they kind of threaded it through the movie that it's like a thing that he knows will kill somebody, so he's going to play around with it.
Well, he's also tiny, so it's not like he has strength in his favor. It's not like he's a grown man. So everything he has to do, for the most part, is pretty. There's a lot of like things like bow and arrow, things like that. But then you do have a few moments where he does show some crazy, like super.
He can swing a baseball bat pretty fucking hard. Let's talk about that.
Right.
I mean,
there
because
is definitely something going on in there.
Here, after he kills the mother, he goes downstairs and he spreads marbles all over the floor. And his dad, his cheerful father, this man seems so pleasant, Roger. That's the thing, is like, some of these people, they seem really, really like they haven't done anything to this kid. I mean, this father is hugging him. He's so excited to see him. And Mikey runs up to him, is like, Daddy, and gives him a big hug. And he has, that baseball bat, and the dad asks if he's been playing baseball, and he's like, no. And then, like, Mikey gives, like, this glance outside, and the dad looks, and he can see the dead child floating in the pool through the patio door. So the dad, like, tries to rush out there, slips on all these fucking marbles, crashes through the glass of the sliding glass door, and Mikey comes out and proceeds to be like, something like, he makes the one-liners. I could have done without the little one-liners from this kid, but he proceeds to beat this man in the head with this baseball bat, and they don't cut away. I mean, we see this man being beaten brutally in the head with the baseball bat.
This whole bit of the father seeing the child, it is the moment that will stick with you from overall. The film has some actually pretty great visuals, but that is going to be the moment that I think sticks with anybody that watches this. And to bring the viewer in like that in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the film, like, really is what a great strong way to start the film off. One thing I really like here with this relatively brief opening that gives you a very solid idea of kind of where this family is at. I love that what you're seeing here is that there is a mother figure who is clearly becoming clued in as to something being wrong with this child, and then a father figure who is presented to be somewhat oblivious. He comes in, he's like, hey, champ. He's all like you said, cheerful, positive. And that is something that is replicated in the structure of the next household he goes to as well. And it's very intentionally so, because you start to kind of you explore a bit, at least at the time in the era of the 90s, mental health, which is explored in this film. There's some terminology thrown around. They talk about the trauma this kid has been through and what it could have done to really inspire or this very hostile side of who he is. That is explored a bit here. And I think the father's figure being so cheerful does reflect there's an element of like denial of what's even going on that you really get from the next character, Neil, the next father that will come into play. So I think it was really intentional that they had this moment where this dad comes in and he just seems like completely like upbeat, has no idea at all what's happening, because that feels very relevant in the era. I think there is still a lot of households where mental health wasn't talked about seriously, was disregarded, was blown off, was pushed off as the mother overreacting when she's picking up on these quirks that the kid has. I found that interesting, and I think that was really well played for getting so little out of this family. I think that there's a story there that you're able to kind of pick up on as setting off the motion of what transpires here.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting little tidbits about, like you said, mental health. And I mean, you could talk about it maybe being a little bit outdated now because there's the whole conversation that comes up, the fact that he was abused by his real parents, and could that have led to him being a homicidal maniac, I guess, signaling that anybody who was abused is going to be violent, which, as we know, isn't the case. But I mean, at least it gives us a basis of what is wrong with this kid, and like, why is he killing this mother, this child? Because we have to have some like basis for that. Even though, like, the more you think about it, it's like, why did he kill this family? Like, the mother, yeah, I guess the mother slapped him, but like, this whole, like, to go to that degree so quickly in the opening scene, I mean, it really sets up what we can expect with this film. Now, so the dad is dead. He wiped out this whole family in a matter of minutes, brutally. So we cut to police detectives showing up because apparently a neighbor came over and found the bodies. And we see the dead dad, and the police officers, he must have fell when he saw his daughter in the pool. And the one officer's like, well, no, falling didn't do that to his head. And then we do get that shot of the mother in the bathtub. The water is drained and she's just covered in bubbles and she's all electrocuted and stuff. And there is, one more surprise, one of the detectives say, and they open up the closet door and Mikey is in there, and he is obviously cowering, and like, the one detective immediately starts to question Mikey. What did you see? What did you see? And of course, that social worker who is there comes rushing in to try to, make it so that he isn't being so aggressive questioning Mikey. But Mikey does say that he saw a man in a red jacket run from the house and get into a brown car and drive away. What I find interesting about all of these Killer Kids movies, Roger, is how, I don't know, I guess I kind of understand, but how laxed the police work is. Do you know what I mean? To me, it wouldn't be really hard if you were doing a really good job to figure out what happened here. It's always like a trope, I think, of a Killer Kid movie, that we are going to make the police force and the parents be a lot more stupider than what they maybe would be in real life because it's a kid and they don't want to suspect the kid.
I think that's what they're definitely leaning into with this. I will say that part of me going into this was actually kind of hoping, when I saw this like detective duo, you've got the guy with the mullet coming busting in on the scene. They really introduced him. They set him up. They set Reynolds up and a few of these other characters in a way that you really think they are going to be a through story, and then they don't do anything with them after that. And it's confusing to me because really it felt like it was going in a direction that I did want, which was with further investigation, starting to pick up on things, because you're right. I think there's certain things you would have put certain pieces together, but I do think when you come upon the visual of this child hiding in this closet, tears streaming down his face, I do also think one of the creepiest aspects of Mikey is his ability to emotionally manipulate. Like, they don't go too deep into it, but they have this moment here where he's not only is he able to put together a cohesive story, a description of a man with shaggy hair and a mustache and a red jacket and a brown car, knows to provide these specific details. And he even, like, at one point, the social worker, she's like, it's too soon for questions. And he's like, nope, this is what the guy looked like. This is what his car looked like. And it's kind of chilling that he has this whole story ready to go. So I don't think they're going to question an 8-year-old child. I notice in the character, at least of the one detective, that it seems like he suspects something is off. And I wanted them to go somewhere with that because of exactly what you're saying. And even the social worker, I thought she was going to be a major character, and she's not. And I do think that is a bit disappointing because it falls into very much a standard like family structure, and there's a teacher and everything. But all of this like police element that you think should have influence because of the information they've gathered, it's lacking. And I'm not always like pro police procedural, but this film could have used that.
Yeah. I mean, because let's be honest, it is the teacher, which we'll talk about her coming up here real soon, acts as the detective in this film. It's the teacher that starts to catch on to things and really starts to investigate. But like, forensic evidence is a thing. I think if you're a seasoned detective, you're going to look at what transpired and look at the evidence. And, a little 8-year-old kid being able to conceal all this evidence of what he did. I don't know, but I guess we're just supposed to buy that because it's a kid. We're just going to not think that kids can do this, even though Roger, this was around the same time, and this is one of the few films from the '90s to actually get banned in the UK because this happened. This film came out at the same time of the James Bulger murder. Do you remember that? Those two 10-year-old boys who abducted the little 3-year-old from the mall and brutally tortured him for hours before murdering him. That was in the UK. And so they banned this film because of obviously the similarities. So kids can kill. We see it all the time. But I was a little kind of disappointed at how um, easy everything kind of falls into place for Mikey's story. People just believe it without looking at any evidence. Although you were right, Detective Reynolds, I believe, he does say to the other female detective, he's like, nothing was stolen. Their bodies were far apart from each other. This to me signifies that they knew their killer. And she like looks at him, but that's it. We don't hear another word from them. Well, he comes in later, very small thing, but that's it. They don't investigate any further.
No. Hugely disappointing. And then, Troy, you're going to give me this whole moment with the social worker where you introduced the aunt.
Oh my God.
Like his aunt, that like she turns around, she's in that big old like leather jacket with all those studs all over it, metal necklace. And she's got one scene, but she takes the scene and she fucking runs with it. And they're like, well, we would expect you as the aunt, like you're going to take the kid. And she's like, there's no way in hell you're getting me to take that child. And the social worker is like, whoa, ma'am, like, chill out. And the broad's like, ain't no way. And she busts out and she's never seen it again.
You know
and
what?
How are you going to introduce someone that powerful, like, on camera and not bring her back?
I respect her, though. She knows she is not even going to go there trying to be a mother. You can tell this girl likes to be at the bar every night until closing time. She is doing karaoke, drunk karaoke to whatever. She don't have no time for a child, and she knows that. So she's, But before that, we get that lovely doctor gentleman who makes Mikey reenact what happened in the dollhouse with the doll.
And Mikey's got the whole thing. He's playing it out, and the doctor's like, this seems all... like, like something worth exploring. But he's like, if anything, I feel bad about this kid. He gives him a hug. He's like, I feel bad for him. Mikey's so manipulative. He even knows how to fucking manipulate the psychiatrist. That is also what's really interesting about him. Mikey knows exactly what to say to avoid like suspicion. So I think if anything, he's just getting a lot of sympathy from these people, except that fucking aunt. She knows something's up. And tell me, Troy, with all these characters being introduced, did you not think... I thought the storyline was going to be that aunt was going to come back and she was going to begrudgingly take the child and he was going to be a killer and she was going to be like, social worker, this kid's killing people. And then the social worker was going to show up and she was going to get axed. And so then the detective shows up and then it's him and the aunt and they got shotguns up against the kid with a bow and arrow, because I did see that photo of him with the bow and arrow, so I was like, that's coming into play. And then the psychiatrist shows up and he gets killed. I thought I knew exactly what was coming, and none of it happened, Troy. None of it.
No. Well, I do like the fact that the doctor asks Mikey, well, how do you feel about the guy? And Mikey's like, I wasn't supposed to see what happens, and well, how do you feel? And Mikey's like, I hate him. And then, the doctor gives him a big hug. And then he tells the social worker that he really believes, Roger, that Mikey is ready to be adopted and should be given to a suitable family ASAP, just not that aunt, because she... Absolutely not. She tells the social worker, I ain't taking that kid. He was abused. He's adopted. He doesn't even related to me. You can't make me take him, can you? And the social worker's like, no. She's like, oh, then kiss him goodbye. And she storms out. And then the next thing we know, we cut to this new couple who are at the airport riding the escalator up to meet Mikey for the first time. And this is Neil and Rachel Trenton, a lovely couple. I guess. I mean, I think the problem I have with some of this film is this, a film like you mentioned, like Orphan, we really get a really good insight into the relationship between Vera Farmiga and Peter Sarsgaard's characters. Like the film is almost as much about them and their relationship as it is about Esther. This film, I just never really feel like I know much about this couple at all. Like I don't feel any, like it's not three-dimensional. These are very one-dimensional surface level characters, and it just doesn't do them any justice because I don't know.
I'm happy you said that. I'm happy you said that because I think we've been kind of praising the film, and there is plenty to praise, but it's definitely not a film that's without flaw. And I think one thing where we start to hit some hiccups here is like the pacing. Like there's certain things, there's certain developments, there's some certain realizations, there's certain beats with these parents, especially. They get it worse than everybody. Where you, I think, would have just expected a little more time to be devoted towards their journey and their denial of what's going on. You start to get a little bit more from Rachel as it goes on, but Neil, the father figure, is completely tossed aside as a complete, like, just totally just oblivious, and, frankly, in denial of what everyone is stating. This is a clear issue. There are now multiple sources, teachers coming forward stating there is a problem with this kid, and he is the driving force against that, unwilling to accept that there could be anything wrong with the child. He even says he's perfect. He keeps saying he's perfect. And so I do think that that is in a lot of ways at the cost of Neil's character, even though we do get some moments of him really forming a bond with Mikey, and that is something that's develops a little bit. It feels like he gets the short end of the stick out of all of the characters, which is surprising because coming into this and knowing what we know about Mikey and having learned about what he's done and so blatantly just shown to us without any question, he is the one behind this and he is willing to kill his parental figures. I would expect that the next batch of parental figures, whoever they may be thoroughly developed and explored in order to make this film work. And his areas of focus is just very scattered. It's not just the parents he cares about. There's a lot of different individuals that come into play that also get his interest, and so it's just at the cost of their characters, and that is unfortunate because it certainly feels like they deserve more time and more just time to develop properly. They don't get that.
Yeah, and I think it hinders the end of the film too because I don't think that what transpires in the film between the parents and the relationship with Mikey necessarily justifies him what he does to them at the end, if that makes sense. Like there's not enough conflict there for me to get on board with Mikey feeling like he has to do this because there is a sense what I think about is interesting about the Mikey character is there is a sense that you get from him that he wants to be good. Like he wants a loving family. But little inconveniences or when he thinks that people are going to like, maybe challenge his shenanigans, that's when he feels like he has to kill him. And I would have liked a much bigger build up to that because neither Rachel nor Neil ever get to the point where they're like, oh my God, this kid's a killer. Like we got to get him out. Think about Vera. I'm going to mention it again. Think about Vera Farmiga's character in Orphan. The escalation of that character realizing what Esther is. This film never even touches that. It just comes out of the blue that Mikey decides what he's going to do at the end. But so they meet Mikey at the airport. Very charming. He's very gentlemanly. He's very polite to Rachel and Neil. He asks them what he should call them. And they're like, well, you can start with Rachel and Neil. They give him a gift. Neil sees his stuff come along the conveyor belt, his suitcase, and there's a baseball bat sticking out of it. Which again, going back to the opening scene and the kind of the incompetence of the police, like there's a dead man laying on the ground that has his head bashed in. I feel like forensics are able to tell like what type of weapon was used to do that. Mikey's allowed to take this fucking metal baseball bat. And Neil is like, oh, it looks like you like baseball. Do you like to catch? And he's like, no, I'm a better hitter. Wah, wah, wah.
There's even a dent in the bat, Troy. Did you notice there's like a fucking indentation from the skull? Like this kid beat this man's skull hard enough that it made an indentation in this metal bat.
And nobody noticed anything about it. So they drive him to his new house. He tells them, little things about himself because Rachel's like, well, we don't have a pool, but we live really close to the lake. And Mikey says, oh, swimming is one of my favorite things. And they pull up to the house. I will say a big thing about this film also that kind of makes me a little unnerved or like not on board with it a lot of times is just how over saccharine it is. Like there's a lot of just dialogue that just seems unrealistic. Like it's just put in there to, I don't know, to heighten, look how sweet and nice these parents are. Like when they pull up to the house, you get like a voiceover of Neil saying like, "Oh, I really think you're going to love it here, champ." It's just like weird stuff like that. I don't know. It's hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but I think there are moments where the film is like trying way too hard to, I don't know.
I get what you're saying, but this is one point I had even kind of notated. I was going to bring up a little bit later, and I think you're absolutely right in that. I think a lot of it plays into just how they treat Mikey in general. In general, like how everybody is so gentle with him and sweet, and all of the dialogue is so like just thoughtful, and he responds very similar. He responds well to it because he's a very polite child at first. I don't think or I don't think the parents know exactly just the extent of what the kid's gone through, but I think they very much know he went through. Obviously they know the parents died. They know he experienced something horrifying. And I think like one thing we need to keep in mind is I think that a lot of the motivation as towards how adult figures interact with Mikey moving forward and why he's given so much leniency is because of he went through something that technically for a child is so traumatizing and can have such a massive development on their personality that I think everyone is going out of their way to be extra gentle with him on purpose because of that. So I think like I try to keep in mind that at times it does almost feel unrealistic, but I think like if I had a child pass off to me who I know had just witnessed a massacre, everything I would be like, "Oh, let's go get you ice cream every day. Every day, let's go get you ice cream."
I agree with you, except they don't know that he witnessed a murder. They don't know that about him. They just know that he comes from a background with possibly abusive parents. It's the teacher
Right.
that finds out later and has to tell everybody that his family that his last family was murdered.
Right.
But I get what you're saying. I mean, yes, if you're adopting any child and you don't know much about their background, I guess you are going to try to be overly saccharine. But I mean, there's just like these moments where like there's nobody on screen and it's just like it's a transition and you're just seeing the house and then you hear Neil on a voiceover say something like, "Oh, champ, we're going to have cereal today." It's just real weird. They go into this house. Okay, what we have Mrs. Owens, who, Roger, I swear to God,
Who's she?
But listen,
Who's this woman?
She has somebody with her. I swear to God, when I first saw this person, I thought it was a middle-aged lesbian.
Troy, my first note is with a guest appearance from a young Katie Lang. Like that is my note. Like that, I am not lying. I'll show you on the I'll put the phone in the monitor. We'll take a screen cap of it. Troy, my note is what the fuck is going on with this androgynous child? Because like I have listen, gender fluidity, groundbreaking for the time. This young child, I don't know what's going on.
I thought it was a lesbian couple. I thought this was a sweet lesbian couple.
Those lashes, like there is a very distinct look to this child. And no, this child's fine. Their name is Ben. They have a love for electric hot pink, and they wear it often. They have a soft, tumbling lesbianic haircut, and they've got the most heavily mascaraed eyelashes I've ever seen. They look like that image of J.D. Vance where everyone thinks that he's wearing mascara. That is this child's eyelashes as well. And there's just something extremely gender fluid about this child, which I think it does feel strangely progressive.
What I needed this child to bust out into constant craving halfway through the film. But no, we're not being mean, but this is the oddest looking child I've seen on film.
I'm so happy that you have this. I knew you would, but I cannot put my finger on it. There is something. His reactions to things like, there's something very lesbian to this young boy. And I just can't put my finger on it.
Well, his name is Ben, and apparently it's Mrs. Owens' son. But he's going to be in he's going to be in the same. He's going to be in the same class as Mikey. So immediately they're best friends. And I don't want to harp on it, but seeing these two together is just an odd visual because Mikey looks like a little boy. Like this is, and then you have him paired next to Katie Lang. And it's like, this is, I don't know what's going on here. Apparently this child was also in episodes of Full House. So there you go.
Who wasn't those days? But tell me this. Tell me if you pick up on this. Because listen, young Mikey he's a fine job. He carries the movie. But part of me wonders if they should have switched these actors for an array of reasons. First of all, they bring in a sister named Jessie who looks like she would be blood related to young Mikey, but instead she's related to this young Italian lesbian woman who, with the thick dark hair, who looks nothing like their mother nor their sister. So I'm guessing it's another adoptee, but they don't make it sound like it. I don't know how this, I think it really is an orphan situation that this young lesbian has moved in and is living an alternate lifestyle with this family who has no idea. But so you got that. But then also, Katie Lang has crazy eyes. And like, I cannot look at this young gender fluid person without thinking that, I mean, there's just something about the way they look, glare into the camera that I'm like, this character is someone who could kill. And I really think that there's a missed opportunity because that Ben really looks like they've got something going on behind those eyes that makes me feel like I should suspect them. I suspected that Ben was also crazy the moment that I saw him just because of the way they looked.
I mean, again, if you were, I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to be mean, but like if you're parents that are desperately trying to adopt a child and you've waited your whole life to adopt a child and the adoption agency walks out with Ben, I would be like, is there another option?
This is going to be our most taboo episode to date, Trey. People are going to be so mad. We're just like Chapel Road. We're making fun of people adopted weird-looking kids. No shame on Ben. Ben obviously had a unique and exotic enough look to be cast in this film. That alone is saying something.
And Full House. There you go.
Full House. They get something going for him that we do not. So I'm proud of them.
You mentioned missed opportunity, but here's the thing. Here's the real missed opportunity. I'm being really serious here. I really wanted a showdown, some sort of showdown or fight or something between Ben and Mikey. And I'm being realistic. I'm not being, because that would have been needed. Like, we can make comments about Ben all we want, but the problem with his character is Ben disappears halfway through the film. And I really think that we needed like Mikey to have somebody like Ben that he had this friendship relationship with that then catches on to what he's doing and have some sort of conflict, like a battle or whatever. But Ben disappears. I don't know if he had to go back to, lumberjack school. I don't know, but he disappears halfway through the film. He had a Subaru to buy. I don't know.
You used a word though that I think is really important in this film is conflict. Is considering the stakes of this film, it needed so much more conflict of greater magnitude than what you get as like the final result of what sets things off. Like, you are absolutely right. And if you're going to come into this film with good son comparisons, which I did, when you meet the character of Ben, and all joking aside, he's fine. Like, honestly, he's fine. He's fine in this role. He's not given a lot to do, but you expect that the first individual that's going to catch on to anything more so than anyone is another child. And he's in the picture enough that you think that he is going to play a bigger part. But then they make this weird choice of, first of all, introducing his mother and never giving her any lines of dialogue at all. This woman is always there. She's always there for a group moment. But other than that mother is not around. This kid's fending for himself. But you really anticipate that there's going to be a developing relationship between him and Mikey that you just don't get, because you really think Mikey is going to turn to another child. And you get, again, just like the character of Neil, you get a little bit of that, but not enough to make it feel like important or pivotal to the story.
No, there's little moments too, little tiny moments where you do see that maybe Ben realizes that Mikey's not right, like little slivers. But then again, Ben disappears. He is prominent in the first 15 minutes of the film, and then he's gone. And they shift the focus to his sister, who we will we will talk about her as well, because gays are going to know her, trust me. So everyone's greeting each other, and Neil's like, hey, don't you want to take Ben up to see your room? Along the way, we pass an aquarium, and Mikey's fascination is with this aquarium, and apparently it's revealed that Rachel's job, Roger, give me this job, is to build aquariums and raise fish for people. Like, how exciting does that sound? I let me stay home all day and fucking play in an aquarium.
I mean, there are plenty of fish in this film, and Mikey forms a strong bond with them. And that's something that's interesting. There's like this weird fascination he forms with these fish where he's like noting that he's going to have to be the one to take care of them. So like Mikey is not just like pure bloodlust.
No.
Like he's not a child who's just programmed to kill. He's programmed that if you piss him off or downplay your love and affection for him, then he's going to kill
Yeah.
you. And that's a unique approach to that. There's a little more thought behind it.
That's exactly what I meant when I said that he does have lots of moments where he seems like he wants to be quote unquote normal. Like he doesn't want to pursue the death. It's just when people do things that he interprets as being, starting to push him away, is that when he's gonna go to his murderous ways. So they go up to see his room. The doorbell rings, Roger, and we get introduced to Miss Shawn Gilder, who, this character could not be more sweet, but it's played by Ashley Lawrence, who horror fans are going to know from Hellraiser 2. Right away, you're going to recognize her. I'm glad to see her appear in this because she really does give the film a levity sort of that it needs. She becomes our sole person that really recognizes that something is not right with Mikey. Now, everyone fucking ignores her, but she is our, for lack of a better word, she is our detective in this film. She's the one that figures everything out.
I have a deep love for Ashley Lawrence. So beautiful. Doesn't age. Looking great here. Delicate Ashley Lawrence. Busting into the scene. Best friends with Rachel. That is an important through line here. And right away, as soon as she's on camera, she's magnetic. Your attention does go to her more so than the parents. I will say, like right away, she gives leading lady energy just because I think that's just who Ashley Lawrence is on camera. I love Hellraiser. I love Kirsty. I think she's a final girl who doesn't get enough respect within the genre, capable, going up against demonic entities. My God. My God. I mean, this girl, and she's capable, and she's solving puzzles. And she brings all that charm to this as well. And her character really, like, it is a strange choice, but she becomes almost the leading, like, I would say if anyone here is considered the lead that is not the antagonist, she is the focal protagonist just because of the knowledge that she's gathering that others don't have. And I would say the film is the better for it. Not saying that the parents are bad, they're just not developed enough. Whereas I think we get a lot more nuances in her performance, her relationship with the children, the fact that she's well liked amongst the children. Those little moments that she shares with Mikey, I think, give her a lot more weight in this film than any other adult figure that we meet. And I think that is in the film's favor because she is one of the most talented individuals on the screen. She really is charming. My eyes go to her every time she's there on camera. They make some strange choices with her as well, which I don't understand, but okay. It makes for a strong conclusion. I'll say
that's
that.
a problem. Yeah, that is a problem. How her character ends the film is definitely a red check for me as we get there. But she's lovely. She's a great teacher. Like, right away she's comforting Rachel because Rachel's saying how nervous she is to be a mom. And Shawn, Miss Gilder, is like, you are going to be a great mom. You just need to give him love. And we also find out, she is going to be Mikey's fourth grade teacher. At that night, they tuck Mikey into bed, and then he calls them mom and dad for the first time, which is sweet. Like, because earlier when they picked him up from the airport, it was all Rachel, Neil. Now that he spent some time with him, he's like, Mom and Dad, I just want to thank you. And, they go back to their room and they have this conversation about how they lucked out. Mikey is such a great kid. Neil's trying to have this conversation. She's looking at a pregnancy test, which had me puzzled. So does she think did she take this pregnancy test? Is she regretting? Did you notice she's holding that pregnancy test box, right? So I'm thinking, like, is that supposed to clue us into the fact that she maybe still regrets that she can't have a kid of her own? Because she's looking, it's not a pregnancy test that she took, it's a box, unopened pregnancy test. And she's looking at it the whole time he's talking about how they should be thrilled that they have Mikey, that he is a wonderful kid. And she's just staring at this pregnancy box the whole time. She's even tuning him out. He's even like, are you even listening to me? And she finally pitches it away. I really wish, Roger, that is interesting to me, to explore the fact that this mother has conflicting feelings about the fact that they have this great child that they adopted, but she's also struggling because she really wants her own flesh and blood child. But this is the only itty little sliver of clue that you get to that.
If there's one character in this film that really gets done dirty, I would say it's Rachel, because truthfully, like, she serves an important purpose, but there was just so much more potential to have like a captivating story there. And there's a hint that they wanted some of it, but they just didn't devote enough of the script to her. There are so many little beats, little reactions, little responses, arguments she has with other characters, things that she's processing that truly that character deserved a lot more time to breathe. And I don't know why they chose to just kind of leave her on the back burner. Some of the characters that end up getting more attention as the film goes on, and again, it's not that they're bad. It's not really that I'm opposed to it per se, but couldn't some of this been devoted to her and the process she's going through? Because you're absolutely right. There's several things introduced with her character that just seem like, why bring it up if you're not going to give it some time to grow into something more? Because it's such an interesting concept, what you're stating here, for what she's processing through the journey that she's going through bringing this child into her household, that could have made for such a satisfying conclusion for this character, but she's just kind of left in some senses almost like an afterthought in comparison to everything else that's going on.
Yeah, because the next scene is the next day. Neil, he gets a moment with Mikey. Like, we get a couple of moments with Neil and Mikey. And we don't get many moments with Rachel and Mikey by themselves having a moment, which is super surprising to me, because it's generally, and maybe the film is ahead of its time, because it's shifting our expectations, thinking that the mother character is going to be the one that gets focused on and be the nurturing one. But we don't ever see that with Rachel. We do see these moments with Neil, because he takes Mikey shooting, bow and arrow shooting, and Mikey asks him if the kid they had before him liked to shoot arrows. And Neil's like, "What are you talking about? What kid? You're our first child." And Mikey's like, "Well, what about all those toys in my room?" And Neil has to explain to him, "Hey, we bought all those for you. Like, we've wanted a child for a long, long time." And Mikey says, "Well, why didn't you just have one?" And Neil has to explain, well, sometimes people can't. And you should feel really good about yourself, because that means that we picked you out. We picked you specifically out, and we love you. And Mike is like, "Oh, I love you too." And they hug and have this sweet moment. And Mikey, in an ominous foreshadowing, shoots the arrow, and he hits the bullseye perfectly. First time. But I mean, we get this with Neil. We never get it with Rachel. Rachel and Mikey never have a bonding moment. She kind of seems like aloof from him a lot of the film.
And the thing, like, and this is tying to something you said earlier, Troy, is like the thing is when we get bonding moments with Neil, they feel very they feel almost very chat GPT in a way. Like they feel like they're these just moments, this dialogue of like endearment and like raising him up and telling him how loved he is. And I really think they only put this moment in there so you could see this really brief like sequence of him as an Eagle Scout or as an Indian guide partaking so they could show that he understands how to fire a bow and arrow, because they sure never come back to that again. Nor do they come back to the idea that he and his dad are participating in the Indian guides together. Like, I think that is something that's important to show how this father is really trying to develop a relationship with this kid, which in turn makes the kids turning on him all the more horrific. Like, I should have seen more of this. I should have seen way more of it with Rachel. There are a few moments in the pacing of this movie that I feel like they almost do it because it's obligatory, because you have to see it. So certain moments of realization, certain beats that have to happen that I feel like should have been a significantly longer scene. And it is a lot of times these moments with the parents there's one scene later on in the movie, I'm just going to say this now so we can really touch on this when it comes up, but when Rachel finally sees an outburst from Mikey that to me should have been a really big moment and a build up to that moment. And they breeze through this, they rush through this moment. It feels so secondary. And I'm like, to me, those are the moments that would have held so much more weight and impacted the story and this development, this relationship between these characters. And it does feel kind of just ignored. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah, I mean, for a film that is about a family adopting what ends up being a murderous psychotic child, like the least explored aspect of the film is the family's relationship with this new adopted child. We get everything else in spades, but nothing there. So it just makes the climax, on one hand, it makes the climax just seem just kind of, even though the climax, let's be honest, is a thud. It's like there's we will talk about that because it is the biggest problem with this film. For a film that started out so strong, oh God, we're going to talk about how lousy the ending of this film is. But we cut to Mikey's first day at school. This class, these children, Roger,
dead in the eyes.
They're supposed to be excited. There's that one broad that has the one little 6-year-old broad that has that hairdo like she's from the
I know.
Great Depression 30s, all poofed out. I'm like, where did they find these children? Like, and of course,
I feel like
Ben is there.
They opened up. It feels like they did a casting call for the Magic School Bus live action movie that never came to fruition. So instead, they just put those actors in this classroom because all of these children look like caricatures of children I would think I'd see in a classroom, just slightly exaggerated. There's like a really dorky kid with big like Coke bottle glasses, and he's really awkward to look at. There's several kids who get weird close-ups that you think they're going to just be like a character, and they never are. It's the classrooms are all handled really weird.
Yeah. Well, they welcome Mikey, and then there's during studies, like one of the kids gets a question right or something, and it turns out to be marble time. This marble. This seemed I don't know how.
But they're pounding their fists.
Marble
marble time. Like they're demanding to be satiated, to pray to their marble god. Like that scene. It's weird. I don't know what's happening.
But yeah, this is the weirdest aspect of a film that gets attention like that I've ever seen. Because they spent a lot of time with this marble bullshit. Bless Miss Gilder's heart for having the creativity to put together this elaborate machine that.
Did she build this shit all by herself? Did Ashley Lawrence, did she build this by hand or was it passed off to her? Because let me tell you, if this is an unknown talent that Sean, I know Sean can be a woman's name, but it just doesn't work for me. I don't like this name for her, but okay, we'll roll with it. Are you fucking telling me that this girl came in, you're a teacher, tell me this isn't the case, came in on her own time after hours and built this fucking contraption that will only be utilized once when there's enough marbles to set it off. That's a whole year building up to this thing.
Oh my God.
And it's just sitting there collecting dust in that classroom. I didn't even notice it until they finally make the marble machine. It inevitably happens. And it's like, it is so elaborate. There's trains.
It's like
there's pieces and parts moving. Where is it in the classroom? Did she build it into the wall? Like, it's so much. It's so elaborate. Good for her, though.
I mean,
a craftsman.
It is. Yeah, this thing, I can't imagine a teacher building this. It's like a giant like domino mousetrap thing where you have to set something on. Like think of the opening of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You know that thing he has in his kitchen that makes his breakfast for him? That's what this is. Like, but you have to feed it. Like it's hungry. You have to feed it marbles, and these kids are going wild anytime a marble goes in. But it only works when a certain amount of marbles gets in and they overflow and the one falls out, and then it does this whole thing and you get a prize. And we'll talk about the prize later. But these kids, but she's
talk about a letdown. Holy shit, Ashley Lawrence, oh my God, all that marbles for that. I'm more impressed with the machine. Which, again, don't bring that into the story and not explain how this thing came to fruition, but here we are. Yeah, we'll definitely get to that reveal because it is almost as unsatisfying as the conclusion of the movie.
Yeah. So, but yeah, okay, so here's the thing. Ben is there. We talked about Ben in his hot pink, and he is thrilled about this marble machine. Like he's telling Mikey all about it. Oh, when she puts a marble in and we get a prize. He's so excited. But then the very next scene, him and Mikey are walking home, and Mikey is like, I wonder what the prize is. And all of a sudden, Ben is like pissed off. He's like, I bet it's something stupid. You were just excited about it. You were like, we're so excited about it. You were pounding your desk. And now he's like, it's something stupid. I know it is.
Yeah, you don't get enough of Ben to understand what's making that clockwork tick. But there's definitely something off about this child. And then, like, you've got this whole thing where Mikey's like, I know a shortcut. And they're like, let's go through the cemetery. And Ben's like, oh, dear. Oh, gosh. And he's definitely that friend. He's the one who's like, oh, Mikey, no, what we get in trouble? And I don't know. He's just blubbering. I'm happy he's not in the movie anymore. Because when this kid's on camera, he just looks so distressed at all times. He's very pathetic. I don't really think that this kid could have held his own against Mikey. Do you?
I would have loved to have at least seen him try. I mean, give me that.
He would have failed so miserably. It would have been 10 seconds of them going to town, and he would have, I don't know, been chucked off a roof or something.
But so they go through the cemetery, and Mikey tells Ben that it must be weird only having one parent to love you. So apparently being raised by that poor mother that we know nothing about. And Ben is like, well, my mom loves me. And Mikey's like, well, what happened to your dad? His dad died. And then Ben says, well, how did your parents die, Mikey? And Mikey gets super offended. Why do you think my parents are dead? And he's like, well, I don't know. Why else would you be up for adoption? And then all of a sudden he disappears. I don't know how this is possible because you look around and there's like nowhere he could have went, but one second he's standing in front of Ben and the next second he's gone. And Ben is like walking through the cemetery, calling out his name. I'm like, did he teleport? Like, how did he get away from Ben without us seeing it, without Ben seeing it? And Ben is like, Mikey, quit it. Where are you?
Not everything can be explained with a slow dissolve. Let's be honest. That's like, they do a dissolve on the concerned Ben's face, and all of a sudden he's like, Mikey, where are you? And I was like, what the fuck? Where did he go?
This poor awkward child walking around. I mean, this kid could not look more awkward, calling out Mikey's name over and over again until he finds like Mikey laying on a freshly dug grave. He walks over and, is staring down, and Mikey suddenly wakes and opens his eyes and startles him. And Ben's like, oh my God, Mikey, what are you doing? And Mikey says, it's dead people aren't the ones you should be afraid of. Living people are. Now, you would think that this would be the point in a more fleshed out script where Ben's character would start to be like, this kid is fucking weird. Like, and he would start to get this, nope, not at all. Nothing. He don't care.
They don't even give the moment like enough time to conclude properly to show like Ben's response to it or anything like that. Like it feels so open-ended. It just ends on that comment and then it like dissolves to the next sequence. And it feels like there really should have been that whole sequence there should have been truthfully used to develop Ben's concern as towards what's going on. In a better script, you're absolutely right. This scene would have had purpose and motivation to conclude with Ben taking something away from it. And if you're going to give me that weird fucking moment of him just laying there on that fucking grave, like you said, that freshly dug grave, just laying there, and then startling the kid by opening his eyes, it just feels very unsatisfying. And this whole scene feels really unnecessary because, again, Ben isn't being given the time or attention to develop any further feelings towards Mikey. Like when this is all said and done, I don't really believe that Ben has any more idea or suspicion that Mikey had anything to do with it than anybody else who's behind the scenes. Like I think that he's less clued in than his sister is. His sister ends up knowing more about what the fuck's going on than Ben is. Ben is relatively clueless. So to have this moment, this exchange between the two of them really goes nowhere and serves the story no purpose at all.
Yeah, it definitely, and I'm glad you mentioned that how quickly it cuts away, because any other, like at least give us a reaction from Ben. Nope, it cuts away, and then it cuts to one thing that also kind of annoys me about this film is like how we get that these are first-time parents, but they kind of overdo it with certain things. And this scene is an example of that, where like Mikey drew this picture, and Neil especially is over the top with this. Like because they're new parents, they want to like analyze everything that Mikey does. So like Neil has this book. Apparently, Roger, there's a book you can buy where it tells you what a specific child's drawing means. Because he's like,
They're really doing this on autopilot, these two. Like, these two are just like, oh, wow, no warning signs whatsoever.
like he's reading, like, oh, he drew this and it means that he's yearning for freedom and may be too constricted. Because what book? Like, there's literally a book that you just flip through until you find, oh, my child drew a picture of a cat laying on the floor. Oh, that means they, whatever. Really weird. But like they overdo it with these like two trying to be like the perfect parents and understanding everything that Mikey does. Mikey comes in the room, seems unbothered at the fact that they're talking about him. He asks if he can go ride his bike, but he ends up at Ben's house. And there's this moment when he gets into Ben's house that he picks up the picture of Ben's sister, and you can tell right away that he is smitten with this blonde face staring back at him.
I like the character of the sister, but my gripe here is that, like, already you have quite a stacked cast of interesting personalities, and bringing her in halfway into the film and making her a rather pivotal element moving forward just seems like kind of like a wasted decision. Like, it just seems like this infatuation could have gone to the teacher. This could have even gone to the mother. This could have gone to the Ben's mom. This could have, like cast a slightly younger and more attractive dame and just make it all on her. And then you've already brought her in the story earlier. It just feels like, you introduce the idea of the sister Jessie. She's kind of mentioned in dialogue, and then halfway into the movie she's introduced, and now she's a major playing factor. I think it adds just some of the bloat towards the second half of this film that could have been utilized, devoted to just making a bigger and more satisfying climax instead. But yeah, I just think like there's like one too many characters right now at this point. So they introduce her through this photo. This photo plays a factor through several scenes regarding his infatuation towards her that develops from the moment he sees this picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what we get. That's our kind of our first signal that Mikey doesn't know this girl yet, but he obviously, just by a picture, he's smitten with her. So the next day at school, Miss Gilder is teaching about electricity, of course, Mikey's favorite subject, right? He loves to electrocute. And the bell rings, and she calls Mikey to stay after class. And she tells him, Mikey, everyone, wants to win the marble game, but it's not worth it if you're just going to cheat. And then she's like, just be yourself. I'm not going to tell your folks about this. You're going to. I'm going to trust that you do. Was there anything we saw that showed him cheating? Did I miss it? I must have, because I was like, what is she talking about?
You see him walk over while the kids are getting up. He sneaks over to the marble game, and he takes his pocket and he dumps a bunch of marbles.
Oh, I didn't
into the game, and she sees it.
See, okay, I didn't see that. I was like, what is she talking about? Okay, so that makes sense, because I guess when she's teaching about it, maybe I was spellbound by her lesson on electricity that I wasn't paying attention.
Missed opportunity with that. I really thought that thing was going to kill one of those children, those Coke bottle glasses kid. I really thought someone had to come and somehow they're going to get stabbed with it, and then it was going to get turned on. They were going to get electrocuted. But it does tie into the fact, like, yes, there's this kind of loose concept that he is infatuated with electricity, how it works and how it kills. So I guess that's just introduced to keep that idea going.
See that? You know what? There we go. That is a testament to Miss Ashley Lawrence's acting abilities, because I was totally transfixed by her electricity presentation that I totally missed Mikey going over, and because I was confused. And I was like, what the hell? Oh, but that makes sense. Okay, I missed that. Then, but as a teacher, never trust a student to tell their parents, because they're not going to. Little hint for you there. The next day, his parents take him to the zoo. And we get this, again, very saccharine scene of them watching the gorillas. Mikey sees this old woman leave her purse on the park bench, and he rushes up and grabs it and rushes to give it to the old woman. And the husband's like, oh, you're such a sweet, but you earned yourself $50. Now, keep in mind, this was 93. That could buy you a couple Snickers bars back then. And then the Rachel and Neil come up, and the old couple is like, you've raised yourself a perfect little gentleman here. And he tells Rachel, And he even has your eyes.
I don't mind this moment in the sense that I do like seeing just how manipulative Mikey can be, convincing people that he's so sweet. And even introducing that little line of dialogue with the eyes, you almost kind of see Rachel wince a little bit at it. Again, something I'd love to have seen explored further. I feel like there must have been like a subplot in there somewhere that they maybe ended up skimming. I don't know. Because there's like these little beats that I feel like I could see where they all lace together, but for some reason they just don't. They're not explored further enough to feel intentional, but I feel like there's something there. And so I think the thing is that they're showing that all the while the cracks are starting to form in other relationships, with the teacher, with Ben, the parents are the ones that are the most oblivious because around the parents, he is constantly on his A game, at least thus far. He's so sweet. He's helping old people. He's declining payment for helping people. Like, I mean, it's just picture perfect. And I think that is maybe kind of important for their story and why they're just not picking up on these things yet.
Mm-hmm. So we cut to Rachel and Sean out shopping together, and Sean asks Rachel if Mikey has told her about the marble game yet. She's questioning. She's digging her little investigative claws in to see if Mikey did the right thing to tell his mom or his parents that he cheated. Rachel's response is, "Oh yeah, he told me about that." And Sean's like, "Well, what did he tell you?" And Rachel says, "Well, he told me that he wants to do his homework really, really well so that everyone gets a prize." Sorry. And you can tell Sean is like, "Oh, damn, he did not tell his mom like he was supposed to." And then Rachel's like, "Are you still thinking about getting a gun? I can't have this anymore." This broad pulls out a gun in the middle of the mall to give to Sean. I wish now the gun does come into play, but like not very convincingly. Little moments that like should lead to bigger things, like never do.
This whole Marvel dialogue, like really, like I wish she would have just kind of jumped at it and like taken the dialogue further and been like, I saw that this happened because this is really her first clue that he is not all sunshine and lollipops and rainbows. He definitely has the ability to lie. He has the ability to withhold secrets. And of course, the teachers give you the first one to pick up on that. I'm sure that rang true to you being a teacher yourself, Troy. Like, I think her character, I love seeing that the teacher is the one with the best instincts because, like, of course she is. But I really wish she would have had the cojones to say, "Hey, Rachel, I want to talk about this with you more in depth," because she doesn't, and it doesn't come up again in the future. And then when she finally does bring something up to Rachel, Rachel is so unwilling to hear her. It's almost like it's discarded, and their friendship is challenged because of it. I hate that. I don't like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this would have been the perfect moment for her to reveal what Mikey did because, it's something small, but then it would make what she confronts Rachel and Neil with later, it would build off of that. So it wouldn't be so like all of a sudden Miss Gilder's just trying to gang us up on us with all this stuff that Mikey's done. No, because it would have been, she's been telling us all these little things that he's doing that we should maybe start to pay attention to instead of like hitting him over the head with something big later on in the film that they're of course going to be, not receptive to because they feel like she's ganging up on him. The second thing that Miss Gilder notices about Mikey is the next day the class are drawing Thanksgiving pictures. And, all the little kids, like she talks to that one little girl for a while about what she's drawing. She's drawing a Thanksgiving dinner. And then she gets to Mikey and she sees that he is drawing a turkey that is axing a pilgrim to death. And he tells her a pilgrim was bad, so the turkey's fixing him.
This picture is startling and really needs to be taken more seriously. Like, I mean, I will say this, I was a child who drew horrifically violent visuals from a young age. I also drew extremely erotic visuals as well.
That doesn't surprise me.
I mean, I don't. When my mom found some of my hidden artwork, I saw her taken aback by the graphic detail and sheer knowledge of both how to express pleasure, sexual pleasure, but also graphic violence. Like, I just know my mom was like, "How? How did you know?" It was just a power I had, I guess. But yeah, so this is something that as soon as my mom saw this, like, we're off to the priest. We're talking to a shrink. Like, that happened. And so this picture is quite graphic, and I just think the complete and utter lack of concern is what's unrealistic to me. I understand a parent being dismissive to a certain extent and wanting to give the kid some benefit of the doubt, as considering that they've been through something traumatic. And again, like we said earlier, they're not told exactly what happened, but they know the kid has experienced some trauma. To be so resistant to the feedback now of professionals, as this is brought up, in my opinion, is not doing your job. It is you are being intentionally oblivious, and these are warning signs. Like, they're being laid out in front of them. We've seen it a million times before. The warning signs are being placed in front of these parents, and they are choosing to be oblivious, especially Neil. And that gives me an element of dislike towards Neil that I hate that I have, because his character is otherwise so loving and caring of Mikey. You want to cheer for him, but because he chooses to just ignore these warning signs that are being blatantly brought to his attention, it makes me dislike him. And I don't like that. Like, I don't like that development from me, between me and this character. I should be liking him because everything else he's doing right. It's just that.
He's definitely a parent that is like, my kid would never do that. My kid would never do that. And as a teacher, trust that I've had many of those parents. And I've always said, you know what? I would love for one semester of a school year for cameras to be put into classrooms so that parents could really see how their kids act and get a taste of that. Because I will tell you, I don't know how many little shits I've had in my class that these kids act like this outside of school, but then you call the parents and the parents like, my kid would never do that. You just don't like him, or you're whatever. Parents, biggest enablers, especially nowadays. Oh my God, Roger, you don't even know. You do not even know. But Miss Gilder, she's concerned, and she takes the picture to. Is this okay? So is this guy supposed to be the principal, Mr. Jenkins? He's the principal. He's the gym coach. I don't know what the fuck he is, but she confides in him, and she takes him the picture. But Roger, even he initially doesn't seem too concerned about it. He's like, I drew stuff like that when I was a kid. And she's like, well, no, this means that he could be suffering from unattachment syndrome. We know he's adopted. We know he has, a troubled past. And she says it could be psychotic behavior. And he pretty much like blows her off. He's like, oh my God, Miss Gilder, you are just being an alarmist about this. I'm not going to do anything right now. I think it's a little premature. I guess I get that. It's a drawing,
He very much mansplains the whole thing to her. And at first, I don't like this character. But one thing that I thought was interesting about Mr. Jenkins specifically was the fact that he is a dominant male personality who at first does challenge her and question her. But at a certain point, he's like, you're right. You are right. And I like that about his character, because he is the typical like machismo, like gym coach. Like, he could be the principal and the counselor and the gym coach, all of those things, I guess, in this tiny school, maybe. But whatever purpose he's serving, I like the journey he goes on, because there is a certain point where he does say to her, as a female peer, I think you're right, and I'm going to trust your instincts moving forward. And I do feel like that character also deserves some more exploration, because that's a great arc to have for a butch male character, especially in an early 90s.
It's definitely nothing we would expect, because most machismo male characters would be stubborn and not admit that they may have been wrong. He does. The minute she has, a specific piece of evidence, he is right with her, by her side. Let's go. You are right. And I do love that about him. And his character becomes way more likable by the end of the film. So Miss Gilder, she's not happy with what Mr. Jenkins just told her. So she goes to approach this other lady. I don't know who this is, this broad, about getting Mikey's records. I need to see Mikey's records. And this counselor lady, she's like, I'm sorry. You can't see them because we don't have them, because it was a closed adoption. So all the documents are sealed. Okay, well, that ain't going to stop Ms. Gilder. That's what I like about this character. We get this weird gym scene, because now if he's the principal, he's also, like you said, the counselor, he's also the gym coach, because they're out on the football field. They're going to play some flag football, and he is assigning the kids to be skins and shirts. So if you're a skin, you have to take off your shirt. When he gets to Mikey, Mikey's going to be a skin, and Mikey protests and said, no, I'm a shirt. And Mr. Jenkins is like, no, you're a skin. Mikey's like, no. And Mr. Jenkins is like, come on, Mikey, just take off your shirt, get some sun. And Mikey says, no, I'm allergic to the sun. And he's like, fine, you're a shirt, go out there. I get what, again, another really missed opportunity because it's hinted at why he doesn't want to take off his shirt, right? Later on, it's hinted at because he has scars from abuse. But if you're not paying attention, it's said so quickly, you're going to miss it. So this whole opposition, and then it does lead to Mr. Jenkins having this conversation with Mikey privately about like why he doesn't want to take off his shirt. And he like asks him, well, Mikey, what's your favorite movie? And Mikey's like, Freddy Krueger or Nightmare on Elm Street. And Mr. Jenkins is like, is that why you didn't want to take off your shirt? You want to be like Freddy Krueger? I'm like, what? It's a real awkward conversation. Mikey says, no, it's nothing like that. It's just that my old parents were bad. And again, hinting at something with physical abuse that's never really explored because he shifts Mr. Jenkins' attention away from that answer to the skeleton, the class skeleton. And he's like, how old was he when he died? And Jenkins is like, I don't know, probably not much older than you. Well, how did he die? And Jenkins is like, this is getting weird. And that's it. That's the scene. There's a lot that could have been really explored here. That's not.
Also, that skeleton being brought into
oh my God, Ken.
discussion, like, okay, there's an idea here that is presented later, but I have so many fucking questions as to how and why. There's definitely something here. There's a reason they bring the skeleton into play. It's interesting, but the execution is impossible. And I can't wait to get to that point. Because, yeah, I'm confused. I like that now he's having this. He's being acknowledged by multiple adult figures in his life as being, if not a problem, then something at least to acknowledge as being off, that his instincts, that his interests, that the things he's saying, the stories he's telling, there's something off and multiple people are picking up on it. The only people that seemingly are not picking up on it are his parents, at least Neil. So everyone in his life is starting to notice that there's something strange about this child, down to his teachers, and the parents just do not want to acknowledge it. I do think that makes sense though, because I think at least, in today's day and age, even more so, but at this point already, I'm sure this applied, is I feel like in a lot of ways, teachers step up as parental figures for kids.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times parents that are off working, parents that are gone, parents that are neglectful. So many times, like that's why I think like the empowering, loving teacher figure resonates so much in a lot of different stories, horror and otherwise. Look at Matilda. I mean, like there's always a character like this that is kind of on the inside because they see it more than the parents do. So I do think there's something there that's interesting to approach. But again, this character, Mr. Jenkins, is not given enough time to develop a real relationship, and that is disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Well, now we're halfway through the film. We get introduced to what becomes our lead, and it is Jessie, blonde Jessie, who pulls up. She's home from school, and this is Ben's sister. Gays will recognize her as Jane Andrew Mancini from Melrose Place. This is Josie Bissett. Beautiful, lots of charisma. I think that when it comes right down to it, she gives the best performance in the film. I think it's mainly because she's the only character that shows some emotion throughout the film. Does that make sense? Not a lot of these characters show much emotion. Even Miss Gilder, she gets worked up, but she doesn't show really much emotion or range. This character is the only one that feels like a real person.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. She's given, like, strangely enough, she's given some depth and shares some moments with Mikey that really kind of allow her to, like, peel back the layers of the onion a little bit. She is a very pretty young blonde girl. She feels very much upon first seeing her that she could be a very disposable character, but she's not. And part of the reason that Mikey starts to form this infatuation with her, aside from, being attracted to her, is I think the moments they share, the dialogue they have, the fact that she is willing to spend time with him and talk to him and appease him, entertain him. And I think that's why he develops that interest, is because she's kind,
Especially, Roger, after how she gets introduced to him. Bless her heart, because if I was her, I don't think I'd be keen on this kid right after what he does, because there's this whole elaborate prank where she gets home, she walks in the door, Ben immediately rushes up to her. You would think he'd be excited to see his sister. No, he's like, come, my friend's not breathing. And she runs in the living room and Mikey is laying on the floor. And at first she does think it's a joke. She's like, oh, Ben, what is this? Some kind of joke? Welcome Jesse home. And she's like, no, he's not breathing. So she's like, oh, I bet he has a pulse. So she reaches down and she feels his neck and he has no pulse. So she starts to freak out. And she's like, oh my God, Ben, how long has he been like? She's like, I don't know, just help him. So she bends down to give this kid mouth to mouth. And all of a sudden, much like Ned in Friday the 13th, his eyes pop open and it's a joke. And she is surprisingly okay with this to the point where she's like, oh, I thought you didn't have a pulse. And he's like, oh, I learned it on TV. If you put a ball under your arm, it makes it feel like you don't have a pulse. Neat, huh? She's like, oh, that is neat. Who are you, by the way? I would be a little bit more pissed off about this than she is. But hey, she's a better trooper than I would be.
She's definitely like a cool, laid back older sister. Like she even says later on in the film that she like went away for school because she's kind of a bad girl. And so I think like, she gives this kid a little bit of a break. She's well aware. I think this girl is used to being gawked at. She's very pretty. They share a moment later where she even calls it out, so she's very like straightforward. She's just kind of blunt about it. But I think she also is kind of like, like it's innocent, or so she thinks. But it is one of her more endearing traits, I would say, is how laid back and chill she is.
Yeah, I could think, that's a great, definitely laid back, definitely chilled. Again, I feel like the most realistic character in the film. She also like proceeds throughout the film many times to tell him what a good kisser he is, which I was a little like, I don't know if I need to hear a 18-year-old girl or whatever tell a 10-year-old that he's a good kisser. And he's tickled by it. Every time she says it, he like laughs and stuff. But he asks her if she needs help taking her stuff upstairs, and she says no. But because when she gets upstairs to open her closet, her young, horny stallion of a boyfriend, David, is in there waiting for her. And I'm surprised. I mean, these two are fucking horny for each other, Roger. Horny.
Horny enough to be hiding in houses. And they have this little moment. Like David is definitely a character. Like upon seeing him, he's disposable. He doesn't need any more development than he gets. But yeah, he is into this girl, and I get it. I mean, she is a vixen. She's lovely. They're almost caught. She has to put him into a closet and play it off. But this is kind of the ongoing trend. This is what they get. They're just always looking to fuck. These two are fucking and fighting and fucking, which makes sense for their age range. Like, I think it's appropriate.
Yeah. You don't get much with him, but all you know is that these two want to fuck. Period. So that night, we do get this whole creepy thing with Mikey climbing a tree. He basically climbs into her window. I mean, he uses a tree outside of her window to climb it. He goes into her fucking room. And when she stirs, like feeling like somebody's in there, he's hiding under her bed. And she gets up and she shuts her window. I don't know how specifically he gets out of the bedroom or anything without her knowing, because it cuts awkwardly to a scene of him suddenly like feeding Ben's frog that he found under the bed. Because there's a scene earlier in the film where like they're at home and Ben's frog gets out of its aquarium and they don't know, but he finds it under the bed when he's hiding. And instead of being like a good friend and like taking it home or giving it to Ben, he like takes it home and feeds it to his fish.
Yeah. There's a lot of moments they choose to just like dissolve out. Like I said this earlier, but like it's moments that I feel like need conclusion. Like, how does he get out of this room from under this bed? He's very nimble. I mean, the way this child scales this tree and the shot of him opening the window and climbing in is actually rather creepy.
It is.
Because he hoists himself up and climbs over the edge of it. Like he's capable, and I believe it because the little actor playing Mikey is very capable. And so he has a physicality about him that is unnerving. And that whole bit of him leaning over the bed, just looking at her, his eyes looking black as night, just looking down on her, it is quite creepy. But you don't see how he gets out. He finds the frog under the bed. He covers its mouth so she doesn't hear it ribbit. I'm assuming she went back to bed, but like she closes the window. So he had to exit somehow without being seen. But this whole bit with the fish, like also interesting. It's an interesting moment. and he's recording it too, because he's always recording shit, you know, and I don't know if we've really touched on that much, but he's got a video log of all of the horrible things he's doing, but he feeds the frog to the fish and then it just dissolves to the next moment, you know, and so you're getting all these little bits and pieces, but a lot of them don't have what feels like a true conclusion as to what they're getting at.
Yeah, the video aspect hasn't been mentioned yet because we haven't seen him watching his videos, but it needs to be acknowledged that he does film his murderers. So eat your heart out, Jill and Charlie from Scream 4, because this little fucker was filming his murders way before you two were. Which is an interesting, because this is the early 90s. Like to think about having a little 10-year-old kid filming his murders and then watching them back in Glee was quite, I think, an interesting angle to go with. It's not really explored much, but I mean, it's a disturbing aspect of the film because he loves to rewatch his work and he gets a kick out of it. He thinks it's fun to watch these murders. I do like this next scene. I do think it's for a script that I think is very mediocre. I think the script is probably the worst part of this film. I do like this little moment. I think it's kind of clever how Mikey accidentally spills information that lets Miss Gilder know more about his background because he wins a spelling bee in class and he has to spell the word assassin. How ironic, Roger. Right?
Oh, a little wink at the audience with that.
I thought that was funny. I actually thought it was funny that that's the word he would. But then he's so excited and for as smart as he is, he has a moment of not thinking because he tells Miss Gilder, he's like, oh my God, I won the spelling bee just like I did before in Oklahoma. And she's like, oh, you won before? And he's like, yeah, I did for the whole city. She's smart. He messed up. Guess what, Roger? He gets to put a marble in the marble game and he gets the prize. What the fuck is this prize? What is the prize?
Well, the true prize is watching this goddamn fucking mechanical marvel.
Did you see that?
This feat of engineering.
Did you see that one little girl with the big hair, just her eyes wide as saucer?
Lighting up. All the children are enamored. They're all mouth agape in awe of this machine. And it is impressive. The final result, though, of like what he's won is not. He wins this cheap ass piece of shit watch that looks like it came out of a fucking candy machine. And everyone's oohing and on. And I would be like, all them marbles for that, ma'am?
It's literally
you're building it up.
Literally one of those plastic watches that you could win like at Chuck E. Cheese's for like 10 tickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the cheapest thing ever. You're building it up to something that does not pay off. If I was that kid, I would have been like, this is why I'm killing you.
Well, he's excited. He's excited. He rushes home and shows the fish.
Thrilled. He's thrilled with it. I don't know why. I mean, children are so easy to appease. Like, that's the thing. Children, they may be killing, but at least you give them a piece, a stick, and they'll be happy with it in the right scenario. So he's thrilled with this watch. But I love, you mentioned, and you're so right, the revelation of that information, because he likes to gloat and he likes to show off, and him slipping up here is completely feasible and reasonable to me. I think that makes a lot of sense. And you just see her face when she gets that information. You see her kind of take it in. You can tell she's noting it. And for as poor as the script is at times, especially when developing its characters and relationships, her character often gets out unscathed. Like her character is actually really well handled from beginning to end. The choices she makes, the dialogue she has, her instincts. I really think like somehow whoever wrote her character specifically at least made sure that she was a source of like intelligence in a film that does not have a lot of it,
Yes. Because next scene, she takes that information and she calls his old school district. And she's like, I'm looking for a student, Mikey Trenton, or whatever his name was. But he says he won the spelling. Well, she gives enough information because initially the woman on the other line, she's like, I don't know any Mike. And she's like, oh, he might have had a different name, but he won your spelling bee last year. And she's like, oh, Mikey Jenkins. Yeah. What about him? And she's like, I just need to know a little bit more about him. And she's like, oh, you don't know what happened to him? And Miss Gilder's like, no, I don't know if I should tell you. Miss Gilder's like, please tell me. And she proceeds to tell Miss Gilder his whole family was murdered. And the police are still looking for the killer. So this just adds more fuel to Miss Gilder's suspicion of this little kid. She is, you got to give her credit. I mean, this teacher is really hell-bent on finding out what's wrong with this kid. But it makes sense because Rachel is her friend, right? And she needs to make sure that her friend is not in any sort of danger or that her friend knows what she got herself into. So I do like the fact that she's being driven by that. I think that's also smart to make those two friends because it makes sense then why she is so adamant about finding out about Mikey.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think that relationship is something that, like, again, if we're talking about things I wanted, I would love to have seen a little bit more of that explored because it seems pretty quick here that Rachel kind of fucks her friend over when she gets some information she doesn't like. And it kind of makes for her character. These two parents really kind of get the shit end of the stick here because a lot of the poor decisions or just awkward dialogue that is shared within this film is between those two. And then that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, Mikey's on his roof. He likes to sit out on his roof. He sees Jessie laying down by her pool. He very blatantly sees Ben and his mom leave. And this is literally the last we see of these two. Ben and his mom leave. He sees that. He knows they're gone, but he proceeds to go down there under the guise of the fact that he's looking for Ben. Is Ben home? And she's like, no. And he gives like this look of disappointment. She's like, oh, what, are you bored? And he's like, yeah. She's like, hey, listen, I was thinking about going out on the boat. Do you want to go with me? So we get a little moment between these two characters. And you know, he asks, they're out on this boat, and he asks her why she has to go away to school. And you've mentioned she reveals that she is basically she had some issues. She was in some trouble. And he immediately said, well, did you kill somebody? And she's like, no, no. And then she like catches him staring at her. And she's like, what are you looking at? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. She's like, no, just promise me, you know, you girls are going to start staring back at you. Just promise me that when they do, that you're nice to them. It's a sweet little moment. I guess it was needed, maybe. I don't know. Again, I don't know how I feel about like because she again when she's out on this boat with him, she again tells him he's a good kisser. Oh, you're a good kisser. That's why you're on the boat. Okay, stop with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think the moment was needed overall because I think her character, for being introduced halfway in and becoming a bigger playing factor, really like she could have fallen prey to just being completely disposable. And with the way things conclude, she can't be. And I appreciate where she's coming from because, like, I mean, for a moment, it feels very much like they're on a date. But he needs to feel that because he becomes extremely obsessed with her very quickly. And I think because she's so laid back, and she understands at his age, like, he's probably very insecure. I think she's trying to give him, like, the self-confidence that I think a girl her age, I think, would wanna do to be kind to a neighbor boy like that, or, like, she's not crossing any lines. She keeps busting his balls about, like, having kissed, but, like, she's also blowing that off as being, like, a joke that they played, and she's not pissed off about it. And it could have been maybe kind of a bit creep factor with the scene, but the way she wraps it up, saying that when "I see how you look at me.
Mm-hmm.
Looking is fine, but anything more than that is not. And if you are caught looking at a girl, please be nice to her." Like, what a cool way, what a good bit of information to come from an older female figure for him. What a wise way to put that to younger male. That's an important piece of information, and it does make her come off very likable, letting that be the lesson she leaves him with. Not that he necessarily does
Yeah.
anything with it, but for her intending that moment and taking that moment to be such a valuable piece of life lesson, I think is really cool on her behalf. Instead of being shitty to him when she catches him looking at her, she's kind to him. She is.
Yeah, no, I don't want her to be shitty to him. But yeah, and it's a nice little moment between the two of them. That night, though, he is watching the video of him killing his family. Like he's watching it, and Neil walks in. He's like, "Oh, what are you watching?" And Mikey's like, "Oh, just some horror movie." And Neil's like, "Oh, I don't want you to watch that stuff. It's time to get to bed." As he's tucking Mikey into bed, Mikey asks him, "How do you know if you love a girl?" And Neil's like, "Oh, you'll just know. Time for bed." So when he leaves, Mikey gets out his camcorder and he basically starts to record Jess because he can see her through his window. He can see into her room and he's like watching her and he's recording until he sees David is in the room with her and he approaches her and they start to kiss. I mean, and these two start going at it because then we cut to their room and she's on top of him, unbuttoning his pants. Mikey's upset, so he goes outside and he proceeds to throw a rock through her bedroom window. This gets David pissed off. He rushes outside. He's like, "Who are you? Come on, come on, come on!" And ultimately, the only thing he sees is Rosie the cat meowing. And Jesse's like, you leave Rosie the cat alone. And then you get this interesting moment with David where he's like, who's out here, Jesse? Who is it? Who? And she's like, oh, not that again. You need to. So it's insinuated that David must have this jealous streak, and he's assuming that it's another guy that's interested in Jesse because she's like, oh, you're doing this again. In the meantime, Mikey is watching the whole thing from the shrubs. He now has Rosie, the cat. And as Jess and David turn away to go back upstairs, Mikey snaps this cat's neck.
You don't see it, but you see the face Mikey makes when he does it, and it is pretty fucking creepy, dude. Yeah, again, he's doing things that I'm like, oh my gosh, kind of taboo. Child killing a cat, breaking its neck. Like, who? I mean, I was like, I saw him grab the cat. I was like, he's not going to kill the cat, is he? He kills the fucking cat. And then he uses the cat's corpse to his advantage. Oh my God, this kid is fucked up. One thing I think that's interesting at this point is like, I think it's pretty new for Mikey to have even the idea of sexuality introduced. He's 8, he's young, but he's developing his first crush on a girl. She's giving him advice on how to handle women. You then are followed up with this moment with Neil, because Neil has that moment where he gives him some sage fatherly advice on how to treat a woman. And now you go into this moment where Mikey is now very driven by his obsession with a girl. So I think there's something to be said at like Mikey's still young, but the cusp of puberty in the distance is starting to manipulate his decisions because he's very attracted to this girl. He doesn't know how to handle that, and he becomes very jealous. I mean, you see him sitting on that roof making that creepy porn film, filming her, and then all of a sudden David steps in, and you see the rage in Mikey's face. Like, he is fucking pissed off. And so that is really, I think, what fuels his final arc, his character arc moving forward is the introduction of sexuality into his life, he doesn't know what it is, but he's processing it just like he's processed everything else through violence.
Yeah, poor Rosie. And you're right. It's bad enough he snaps the cat's neck, but then what he does with it next, because David goes back upstairs with Jesse and he's trying to get right back into it. He wants some of that puss. And she is like, nope, I am totally out of the mood now. You need to go. He's like, come on, babe, I need it bad. She's like, no, go. And then Ben, I guess Ben is there. We see a brief second of him. He's like, Jesse, what's going on? She's like, oh, Ben, go back to bed. So she picks up David's clothes, literally tells him to get out. I love it. This is a girl who is in charge, and she is not going to let any man try to pressure her into doing anything she don't want. She hands him his clothes and tells him, scram. And so he's all pissed. He has blue balls. He goes out, gets into his truck, starts his truck, backs it up, and we hear a large crunch. He gets out of the car, and we see that Rosie is now crushed because Mikey put Rosie under his car tire so that when he backed up, you back over her.
Mikey is a fucking maniacal, sick little piece of shit. He is so good at planning this shit out. That's one of the creepiest things about what he does. He's very calculated. The fact he even thought to not just kill the cat, but then take it and use it as a tool to kind of make things go the way he wants them to. Ooh, he's so wild. And you're right. I love how she kind of like when dude wants to come back in, when David's like, no, let's get back to town. She's like, no. Like, she's a character that is not pressured by the males around her. And I really like that about her character. She feels kind of a little bit more progressive than I would have anticipated, which again, at least if you're going to introduce her late into the story, give her some heft. And they do that. She's written well. And as soon as she finds out about the cat, she's like, get the fuck out. Yeah. Go. Go.
I will say, I like the choice that David makes because because a lot of guys, I'm telling you, a lot of guys would be like, they would like scoop that cat up and take it and dump it somewhere and not ever mention a word. You know, instead he immediately honks for her to come down, and he is thoroughly apologetic. Like, he is telling her, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't see her. In the meantime, Mikey is filming this in the bushes, and Jesse just tells him to get the fuck out. She's like, I don't care. Go. And she's done with him, or so we think. And so Mikey thinks, this was part of Mikey's plan. It's going exactly how Mikey wanted to go. This was going to be a straw that made Jesse, break up with David and not see him again. Goes there, but David's just too charming, as we find out. The next day at school, Miss Gilder is giving this math problem. We see him stabbing his arm with a pushpin, like repeatedly. And we think that he's out of it. And Miss Gilder thinks that he's out of it because she calls on him. She's like, "My earth to Mikey. What's the answer?" He is immediately able to spit out an answer to this elaborate word math problem that she was given the class while stabbing his arm. And she's even taken aback by it. She's like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. Class, we're going to have some quiet work time. Mikey, can you come up here?" So she calls Mikey up to ask him what he sees. What's in that book that has you so interested? And she's like, "Come on, let me see." And she goes to get the book, and then she notices all the blood and marks on his arm that he was stabbing his arm with. This hard cuts. We waste no time. This hard cuts to Neil, Rachel, Miss Gilder, Mr. Jenkins in his office, confronting them about all the issues that Mikey has had.
It was a bold choice to go ahead and include this aspect of self-mutilation, because I really think that this story could have been told without it. But the fact that they did go there, I think, shows that this is something that is significantly of a bigger issue for the character of Mikey, that it goes beyond just him being a serial killer. That this is something that he is inflicting pain upon himself, that he is across the board, he is affected by what he has experienced so far. And it is something that's fundamental to who he is. And the teacher, I think, seeing this, I think this is the right time to bring this up, because it really does get the ball rolling, in the sense of now the educators are stepping in saying there's a fucking problem. We caught this kid hurting himself. This needs to be explored further. And this is the point where the parents, their response here is so unsatisfying that it really does make them almost, in a way, I mean, I don't want to say deserve what's coming to them, but they are now, they are part of the problem. They are a part of the problem. And what happens here is really on their shoulders.
Yeah, no, because they're confronted with the picture. They're confronted with the fact that Mikey is a liar and a cheat, because she reveals that. They're confronted with the fact that he has self-mutilated. They are the most defensive parents I've ever seen in a film. They don't want to hear any of it. You know, poor Ms. Gilder's like, he could be emotionally disturbed. We don't know about his past. And Neil's like, what are you talking about? He's acting like a normal child. He's perfect. And Miss Gilder's like, yeah, he's almost too perfect. Like, he's like, think about this. He is too perfect. We don't know where this child came from. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. And then the nerve of Rachel, this bitch, she's like, what's wrong with you, Sean? You just never want me to be happy. And they're like,
how fucking dare you, bitch? How dare you?
And they get up and they storm off. And Gilder is like, oh my God, Jenkins, we got to do something. This is not right. Outside, Rachel is like, I don't want Sean around Mikey anymore. I'm going to pull him from her class. And Neil's like, wait, don't overreact. And then we get that one little brat that throws the ball and Neil picks it up and he comes rushing over. He's like, give me that back. And Neil's like, oh, aren't you glad we didn't adopt him? I mean, these parents are so fucking...
It's infuriating. Honestly, it's infuriating, and it's really upsetting. And especially when she challenges her friendship with Sean, like at that point, I'm just like, I'm kind of done with Rachel, because up to this point, like, okay, I can understand having blinders on. You're trying to, this is a new experience in your life, bringing a kid in. And the last thing you want to admit is that this kid is troubled. So I can understand some pushback, but at this point, with the proof that they have, and then to take it to such an extreme to insult her, and then to leave and be like, I never want her seeing or touching my kid again. Like, bitch, go fuck yourself. Like, truly, like, it is the worst decision that they could have made for the integrity of these characters. And it is such a bummer. And then, like, right after that, we segue into a moment that is much too brief, in which Rachel now experiences her first interaction with Mikey that shows him erupting on her. And it's like, girl, like, and you're still ignoring it.
She has no reaction to it. I mean, he throws a fucking fit. I mean, we hard cut from this scene to Mikey yelling at Rachel for selling his baby fish. And she's like, no, that's my job, Mikey. They were old. He's like, I hate you. I hate you. You don't care about me. I wish I never met you. You're not even my real parents. I hate you. And he like runs upstairs. She doesn't even seem fazed by it.
Well, I mean, she seems somewhat phased, but not enough to act upon it. And certainly, like, this, if you're going to introduce this moment right after this whole awkward interaction happened with the teachers, like, give me a moment where Rachel comes with her tail between her legs and goes back to her friend Sean, who has been trying to warn her, and says, okay, now I at least had an experience that I can say maybe there's something more to explore here. She is choosing to ignore the issue, and this should be a massive red flag for her. Immediately following, having had several educators telling her what they're seeing, the kid just proved it.
What?
And for her to now act upon it is just very upsetting.
And then when Neil gets home, she tells him, and he is super dismissive of it. He's like, "Oh, there's got to be an explanation." And she's like, "Well, maybe we need to take him to a shrink." And Neil's like, "Oh no, Rachel, we're the only ones that can help him. Like we need to be sensitive to Mikey. We're the ones that can help him."
Yeah, I mean, at least Rachel, as we start to kind of come up to her inevitable demise, let's just put it out there, at least she's starting to put the pieces together and getting a little more self-aware as towards how she's responding to the situation. Neil never, ever gets a grasp of what the fuck is happening. And it makes, every time he's on camera, I get more and more upset with him. And his character really becomes more and more useless. Like, really, like, he's pretty much gone for a majority of this too, until he comes home to reveal what's happened. His character is very much sidelined, and it's confusing why they do what they do. But yeah, so now at least she's starting to hone in on it. She brings it up as a concern. He dismisses her. It's very upsetting.
Well, and then in the very next scene, she gets another clue that something's not right with him. Because he comes home, he brings her flowers. You know, he's walking around. Of course, he finds her in the bathtub. Just
tits out.
He just walks right in.
Laying their tits out to the sky.
He just walks right in. And of course, she is like trying to cover up. And he's like, Mommy, I just wanted to apologize and tell you I think you're the best mom ever, and I got you some flowers. She's like, oh, great, Mikey, but you can't just walk into the bathtub or bathroom. You need to knock. You can go put some of those go put the flowers in the water, and don't knock next time. He picks up the curling iron because he does not like her response. I guess he expected her to like fawn all over him. He picks up the curling iron and he says to her, if I throw this in the water, it'll work just like an electric chair. I'm sorry, Roger. If a kid I adopted said that to me, my ass would be out of that bathtub, grabbing that little bastard by his arm, dropping him right back off at the adoptions agency. No questions asked.
No questions. Poor fucking Rachel sitting there, her tweeps and peeps to the sky. Comes in, she curls up into a fetal position, so vulnerable and revealed. Her giblets and her niblets just exposed, completely showing off this kid everything she's got. She's got nowhere to go, and he's just standing over her with that fucking curling iron. And and she's just sitting there. She's so uncomfortable, like this poor woman. If this isn't what it takes for you to have some concern, I don't know what to do. He's standing there looking over this thing, and then he busts that line out about fucking does the same thing as an electric chair. I would be like, get the fuck out of my bathroom and get out of my life. I'd grab him by his hair. I'd pull him. I'd walk him all the way to the adoption center. I'd throw him on the curb, and I would be gone. I'd be gone, because that is a sign of things to come. And she gets what's coming because she chooses to not do anything about it. Like, come on, like, Rachel, call his teacher who has been trying to warn you. This is the time to do it. It is so
all she could say to him when he's standing above her, she's like, Mikey, I'm getting cold. Her nipples hard as rocks as she's just vulnerable.
Mikey, please. My breasts. My supple pouting breasts.
This woman. But he does unplug it, and she does let out a sigh of relief. But does she do anything? Does she try to get him out of her?
No.
Nope. He's at Ben's house watching some war movie, and Jesse comes in, and Jesse comes in, and Mikey gets up and tells her, I know how much you miss your cat, so I got you a new one. So he has a stuffed cat that he gives her. And And immediately, like, the doorbell rings, so she has to shove the stuffed cat aside, and it's David. And she first says she doesn't want to talk to him. And Mikey comes out and says, "Isn't that the guy who killed Rosie?" And David's like, "Who's that? And who's that twerp?" He's like, "Can you please come outside and talk to me?" So she agrees. And of course, she goes outside with David, and he is charming. He has roses for her. He gets on a knee to apologize. The next thing you know, they are smooching, hugging. They have made up, and Mikey is watching this from the window, eyes full of disdain. And he turns to Ben. He's like, "Where's your mom at?" And Ben's like, "Oh, she's out of town. Why?" "I'm just wondering," he says. And you know this little fucker is up to no good.
Oh, our mother hasn't existed in our lives at all. Our mother left 3 weeks ago. She's never here. Yeah, this apology, I mean, he drops down to his knees. He's given it his all. No wonder. And he's pretty goddamn handsome. So I get it. But Mikey, oh, I mean, he's sitting there gritting his teeth. I've never seen a child look so angry in all my life. And you know that he's going to fuck this kid up. Like, he's going to fuck him up. He's going to do something awful to David. And bring it on. David is the perfect character to kill at this point.
We are there. Well, first of all, we have to see a little library research scene because Miss Gilder is in the dark public library in the middle of the night. We're looking at microfiche. Remember that? And when she finds the article about Mikey's family being murdered, dun dun dun. She's putting the pieces together. Cut to night. She's not doing it fast enough because poor David suffers the wrath because that night Mikey's on his bed when he hears laughter and he looks outside and he sees, God damn it, he sees Jess and David just lovey-dovey, hugging, laughing down at the pool, at the hot tub. They are going to go hot and heavy in this hot tub. Outside the room, Rachel is going to knock when Neil comes and stops her. And he's like, "I thought we were going to give him space. He's going to talk when he's ready." Motherfucker, this kid just threatened to electrocute your wife. And you are not even concerned about it at all.
And at least she's finally starting to pay attention to it and wanting to, like, actually, invest more time and concern in this kid. And he, like, actively shoots her down on it. Like, it's like, dude, like, this is your wife. This is your partner. This is the mother of your now adopted child. If she is saying something, if you're going to listen to anybody, listen to her. And she was late to the game. But at least she's trying to bring your attention to it. And for you to say no and disregard that, it just is like you're not doing your job as a parent.
Mm-mm. Well, Mikey hatches this elaborate plan because he cannot tolerate watching Jesse and David make out in this hot tub. So he proceeds to call her house, and he puts the phone in front of the TV, and then he immediately rushes out of the house. So Jess gets out of the hot tub to answer the phone because she thinks it's her mother, this non-existent mother. So she's out of the hot tub answering the phone. And Mikey's smart because when she answers the phone, she hears voices. It's the TV. She doesn't know that. And she's like, who's there? Who are you? In the meantime, Mikey has made his way to the backyard. He's standing above David in the hot tub. David sees him and tells him, "Hey, kid, you shouldn't be out here." And Mikey's like, "No, you shouldn't be out here. You killed Rosie." And David says, "Well, that was an accident." And Mikey says, "Yeah, life is full of accidents, like that radio, because there's a boombox sitting right next to the hot tub. That radio's not safe." And David's like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And Mikey does not hesitate a second. He kicks that fucking boombox into the hot tub, electrocuting David to death. Second person he's electrocuted in water. And then he says very maniacally, "'Cause you could die."
When he does deliver these lines, like, this kid, at least he got what they needed. Like, he is, like, so fucking maniacal. And when he does get a good little one-liner, "Because you die," like, it hits. It's for me. I know it's cheesy, but I think it's funny.
It is cheesy. I'm not one for one-liners when killers kill people. I don't know. But I mean, I'm going to give him credit. He does do it effectively. Jessie comes out. She's looking for him. She doesn't see him right away. She's like, "God damn it, David, if you don't answer me, I'm never going to speak to you again." And then all of a sudden, his charred body emerges from the bubbles of the hot tub, and she screams, drops the beer, it shatters everywhere. I mean, it's a big reaction, but I don't fucking blame her.
The whole sequence is actually pretty well handled. I love how, like, when she's on the phone, he's got the TV playing, so she's hearing something. She's like, "Is this a joke?" So it's keeping her distracted. In the background, you can see him pop in and talking over the jacuzzi, talking to David. And it's played out really well. And again, like, it's another moment, like, he throws the boombox into the jacuzzi. It's not too over the top. You see David twitch and get electrocuted for a moment, but then again, when they reveal the body, when David floats to the surface, it's actually pretty gnarly. Like, it looks pretty great. He's got big black open sores all over his body, and she has a big reaction. You see a shot of a camera recording, and it's clearly his camera. I thought it was a security camera. I was really hoping that was going to be the case, that would come into play, so there's a little proof against him. But no, he's just recording everything, and again, he does watch all of this back. It's his little quirk. He likes to see these murders happen on playback.
Well, Miss Gilder is still at it because she now is on the phone talking to Detective Reynolds from the opening scene. And, Detective Reynolds is like, "Lady, I'm sorry. I'd like to help you, but the case is closed because all the circumstantial evidence pointed to the fact that it was an inside job." And the conversation leads you to believe that he maybe suspected Mikey as well, because he's like, "Yeah, he's like, I hear what you're saying, but nobody is going to believe that a 9-year-old kid would have been able to pull this off." He was checked out by a psychologist. He got a clean bill of health. And she's like, "But please, you don't understand. I need to see the police reports." And he's like, "You know what? Fine. I will fax them to you in the morning, but be prepared to read them before breakfast because they ain't rated PG." So I like this little sort of development because, like I said, it's very much hinted at that the detective maybe thinks that Mikey is involved, but just he knows nobody is going to believe that a 9-year-old did it. So they just have to close the case.
And again, like, disappointing, like, you're bringing the character back in. He made a bit of an impression earlier, and, like, he just agrees to send her these documents with no question. Like, that is not, like, proper procedure. Like, he could get into a lot of trouble doing that. So he just agrees to help her, and then he steps away again. And, like, this really is the last time that the detective is seen. And I was like, "Oh, cool, they're bringing this element in again. Let's explore this further," because between what she's learning, what he has, I mean, you got a lot to come against Mikey. Like, let's explore that. And they don't. They nip it in the bud. And it's disappointing. It is.
The next day, Mr. Jenkins is in the front office and Miss Gilder's there. He gets a phone call, and when he's off the phone, he has to reveal to Miss Gilder that Mikey and Ben will not be in school that day because there was an accident at Ben's house, and her sister's boyfriend was electrocuted in the hot tub. And she's like, "Oh my God, I really, really need you to sit down and talk to me about Mikey." At home, because now it's known that, David was electrocuted. At home, Rachel's in the bathroom preparing for a bath when she sees the curling iron, and she picks it up and she has a revelation. So yes, Rachel is starting to slowly put things together, not fast enough, not with enough urgency, because she holds the curling iron and she goes, "An electric chair." And she's concerned now because she knows that David was just electrocuted. We get this moment now with Jess, who is with Mikey, just being hard on herself, saying that she was so stupid for putting the radio so close to the edge. He probably just tried to change the channel and it accidentally fell in. She's like, it could have happened to both of us. We were so stupid. And Mikey's like, "Well, I'm glad you're not dead." And then he tells her maybe it wasn't an accident. She's like, "What are you talking about?" "Maybe he was being punished." She's like, "Punished for what?" And he says, "For killing Rosie." And she's like, "Mikey, that's sick. You can't love an animal more than you love a human. And I loved David." And he gives her this hug. And he says to her, "Well, now you can just love him." I like her reaction because she immediately peels this little fucker away from her and tells him, "Get the fuck home. Go home. Get away from me. you are fucking creepy. And he does. And she like picks up a rose that I don't know if he put it next to her or if that was the rose that she had from the night before. But she goes to the hot tub and she starts throwing the petals in. And she has this realization too, where she says back to herself, now you can love just me. So people are starting to realize shit's going down with Mikey.
Jesse is a character who puts the pieces together in real time.
Mm-hmm.
She is a character whose rationale, her reasoning is appropriate. As soon as things become clear to her, she creates distance with Mikey. Not only that, she goes right to the source. I love that she goes over to the house. I mean, that's the next step. She goes to Rachel's right away and she's like, listen, there is something going on. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm telling you right now that there is something concerning about Mikey. And Rachel has the audacity, after now knowing what she knows and having had her own realizations herself, she has the balls to basically tell this girl that she is incorrect and that she is wrong to think as such. And she defends Mikey as Mikey looms over top like a gargoyle in the stairwell, like a fucking flying monkey just watching on. And this is, I was like, Rachel, I was like, girl, I hope you get what's coming to you because you have given me no reason to want to support you whatsoever. And now that you've got this girl genuinely expressing concern to you after multiple people have done so, like, how fucking dare you? How dare you?
If something's wrong with Mikey, me and Neil will deal with it, she says. Yeah, this pissed me off. This made me lose all anything I felt for Rachel, wanting her to survive. Gone. This kid has just done so many things that are creepy. He threatened to electrocute you. This girl comes in and tells you, hey, I think something's going on with Mikey. I think he may have been involved. Nope. Rachel dismisses her, kicks her out. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. Next at school, Miss Gilder gets the facts finally. It's been all day. She's been waiting for it all day. She's been harassing that secretary broad about, is my fax here? Finally comes. She gets it. She reads it. She sees the mother was electrocuted in the bathtub. She tries to call Rachel, but we see that Mikey, when he saw that fucking Jesse was over there accusing him of being a murderer, pisses him off. He takes the phone off the hook. So when Sean is trying to call Rachel, the phone is busy. It would have been pointless to talk to her anyways because she wouldn't have listened. So she like rushes to leave, and Neil comes out. Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Jenkins comes out and sees that she's rushing to leave, and he's like, "Where are you going?" She's like, "I got to get to, Mikey, and I got to get to Rachel's house. I found something out about Mikey." And this is when she tells him that Mikey's mother was electrocuted. This is when he's on board. He's like, "Oh my God, you might have been right the whole time. Here, I'll drive." So the two of them get into a car and head over there.
Yeah, this was like the kind of character dynamic I needed to see from somebody. These two stepping up to the plate and be like, something is going on. If the parents aren't going to fucking own that, then at least there's two characters who will. This moment of glory for these two is pretty short lived, but they do kind of take the reins as like now the focal protagonists, honestly, which is unexpected. But like, we're going to talk about weird pacing, and I know we're running long on this episode, but I think one of the things that's mind-boggling to me is like, now that we're hitting the final stretch, like we are hitting what is the climax, it don't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. Like, there are certain key things that are happening here that I think really needed to be big moments. Like this whole sequence here of Rachel walking in and finding him just watching the TV, and he's watching back the video of David being electrocuted, and Rachel realizes, oh my goodness, this is what's happening. Like, this needed to be a big moment, and in the hands of a competent filmmaker, even down to the script writer, like this really would have been something that would have been given a proper sequence to develop a major shift in characterization between the parent and child dynamic. Like, you've got the mother figure and this kid, and that she's been defending him this whole time, and now she comes in during this lame ass kind of sequence where he's watching the video. She just sits down like, what am I to do? And it's like, girl, everything she does from this point forward is the worst possible decision. She does not make a single good decision at all. And she really gets what's coming to her, but like, I just should not be feeling that way for this character.
I mean, my mouth was agape at some of the decisions that she makes. Like, literally, I was watching like, you fucking serious? Like, how stupid can you be? Like, she is literally watching a video of She sees him watching a video of David being killed, and she asks him what he's watching. And he tells her it's Mikey's funniest home videos. And she's like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, it's pretty funny, huh? Instead of rushing out of the room, she sits down.
She sits the fuck down. She tells him to go to his room.
Yes.
And he's sitting there with a hammer. And she's like, go to your room. He's like, he looks at her like, with this hammer? He very coy, very playfully, like grabs the hammer. And like, as though you should not have any reason to be scared of this kid, she like sits down like she would not have anything to fear. Everything is laid out right in front of her. The weapon, it's like everything has been solved right there in that sequence, and she just sits down and lets the little fucker come running at her.
Yeah, he picks up the hammer and she tells him to put it down and go to his room. Does she really think he's gonna listen? And she's like, Mikey, give me the hammer. He's like, if you say so. And he bashes her hand, crushes her hand with the hammer. Okay, bad enough, Roger, that the bitch sees her child watching a murder video. Bad enough that she just sits down in a chair. But when this little fucker actually breaks her fucking hand with the hammer, Roger, does she run out of the house?
She trots down the stairs and goes to call the police, and then the phone is dead because he's pulled it off the cord. So then he comes and attacks her again, and then she runs back upstairs. So like, what is she doing?
Doesn't even call, but she goes right to the freezer and gets ice to put on her hand.
Let me forget that she tends to the wound. We've got all the time in the world.
What?
Just poor Rachel.
Would your ass not have been out that front door screaming, my child is trying to kill me?
My child tried to kill. I'd be falling down my staircase. I'd be running out the front door. I'd be grabbing at cars, driving by, anything to get someone to help me.
She's just has all the time in the world, putting ice on her hand, just like reading recipe cards. And of course, the little fucker just comes out of nowhere and bashes her in the shoulder with the claw end of the hammer this time. And she still doesn't seem too concerned. She runs upstairs and like shuts her bedroom door. And he's trying to get in. And all she's doing is like, Mikey, no. Mikey, no.
Rachel absolutely deserves to die more than most characters in any film we've ever seen. Rachel has earned this death very much so. Bust a window open and scream for help. Something. And then he comes over, somehow he gets out on the fucking porch outside and bashes the glass in. And then she I would be opening the door and running. She doesn't have like a normal response to anything that this kid does.
She says, Mikey, that's enough. Drop kick him. He's an 8-year-old kid. Drop kick him in the fucking face.
When he hit her with the hammer, she should have kicked him so hard that he flew across the room. Like, he is a child.
Back.
Throw him down the stairs. She's so pathetic.
All of the adults are, though. None of them. They all deserve to die. These are the most.
To die.
I mean, I've never seen characters like so willing to die in my life. This isn't.
They're capable of self-defense.
You don't even try. All she's doing is, Mikey, that's enough. Mikey, that's enough. Well, he picks up a piece of glass and charges her. She opens the door to run out, but he's on top of her. And unfortunately, or fortunately, because this bitch deserves it, they plunge over the banister onto the stairwell. Just then, conveniently, Mr. Jenkins and Miss Gilder pull up. They go inside, and immediately they see like the bodies on the staircase. We see, because we didn't see him stab her, but he must have stabbed her on the way down. Or maybe when they hit, because now she has the glass embedded in her neck.
It's a pretty gnarly effect, all things considered. Like, this film doesn't have a shit ton of gore, but like for a reveal, she is clearly dead. And he should technically be dead too. But you know he's not. He's pulling that good old ball in the hand, a fake lack of pulse trick that he learned earlier in the movie. That's clearly what's going on, because even Jenkins comes over and checks his pulse. He thinks to say no pulse. So this is that trick that he mentioned earlier. But yeah, Rachel is definitely dead. And like, you do realize at this point, the parents are prey here. Like, the parents are not going to be the ones to make it out of this movie. So that is the first thing that kind of took me by surprise, that out of all these major playing characters, Rachel being the first to go was kind of shocking, was it not?
I think so. Although, I mean, I think that part gets less impactful because of how stupid she reacts. Like, it should have been a bigger moment. She should have fought back. She should have had some things to do. But basically, she just lets him kill her. And then what happens next is even more baffling, because of course Sean runs out of the house and is crying, and Jenkins goes to comfort her, and she has that gun, and he takes it from her, and she's like, we could have stopped this, we should have stopped this, we should have been there for her. And he's like, well, I don't know, maybe we could have, we'll never know. You wait here, I'm going to go back inside to call the police. So he takes the gun. When he first goes in, Mikey is still on the stairs. He goes to the kitchen, puts the gun down to try to call the police. Can't get a dial tone. We see Mikey's hand grab the gun and then put it back. So when Mr. Jenkins realizes he can't call the police, he goes to leave the house, but he notices that now Mikey is not on the staircase, and he's wandering around. He gets into the living room, and all of a sudden Mikey appears behind him, calls his name. He has that fucking bow and arrow. I gotta say, I don't blame Jenkins. Is definitely not as fucking stupid as and helpless as Rachel, although he probably should have never set the gun down. He was gonna, Mikey has the bow and arrow pointed at him, and Jenkins like, you better put that down, Mikey, I'm telling you. And Mikey draws it back, and Jenkins like, you can see he doesn't want to, but he's like, there's even that sigh he does. He's like, shit. And he pulls the trigger. Give him credit, he was going to shoot this little fucker.
He was going to shoot this little fucker. Thank God someone was going to. And like, we had that whole awkward moment of dialogue between him and Sean outside. Like, I feel like after the discovery of the body, like, you're calling the police. There's panic mode. And they had this like tender moment where he's like, well, I guess I need to go inside and call the police now. And she's like, yes, go call them. Like, it just feels very like it breaks up the pacing. Like, at this point, you want to keep the adrenaline moving, and flowing. And it just breaks it up. It's awkwardly kind of shoehorned in to share this moment. But you realize it's going to be his final sequence.
It's too long. It's too long.
But you come in and he has this whole bit here with the gun, which, he even notices the gun, like when he puts his hand back, it's moved over a few inches, and he pauses to think like, that's weird. But when he goes to fire, like, Mikey, this manipulative little piece of shit, this little fucker, he's 2 steps ahead every time. He goes to fire, bing, bang, boom, doesn't happen. And then you get this dramatic arrow moment. You knew it was coming because you had that whole sequence earlier in the film where he went to the Indian guides and learned how to shoot an arrow and showed how good he was. You knew they had to utilize that here. And I will say, like, in the sense of well-executed sequences, this is probably one of the better ones, because he gets the arrow to the stomach, he turns, the whole thing is coming out his back. Like, it's pretty well handled, but it's a bummer to see this character go, because I was just starting to like him.
He's dead. He gets shoot through, and then Mikey comes over with the bullets and's like, I guess these were what you're looking for, and like throws him down at him. I know. But
he knew the whole fucking time, that little fucker.
But Miss Gelder outside, she hears the commotion. So she goes inside and like immediately sees him dead on the floor. I would have ran out. She doesn't. She steps further in so that Mikey's able to slam the front door. She tries to rush to the patio door to get out. Mikey appears behind her. He has a slingshot now. Where the fuck did this slingshot come from? But he has a slingshot. He slingshots a marble towards her and it busts the patio doors. And I like this character, but she is trudging into Rachel territory here because this bitch is in no hurry. Even though everyone's dead around her, she literally just like trots into the kitchen and he's behind her. He shoots her in the shoulder with that marble. I feel like it takes a while to load a slingshot. You know what I mean? Like, you have time to run up and fucking kick this little fucker in the face. But no, she's just like helpless now.
Go somewhere.
She's helpless. And he's like, Miss Gilder, my marble game was my favorite. I'm glad you showed it. And you know what? You were my favorite teacher. And I want you to teach me one last thing. She's like, what? What do you want, Mikey? And he says, how to die. And he shoots her in the fucking eyeball with a marble and she flies against it's very violent, like bashes against the wall, blood everywhere, collapses. I don't think this is a suitable death for this character. She needed to fight back. There needed to be something more. She has been the one throughout the film that is putting everything together, and to have her so helplessly meet an end with a fucking slingshot of all things. I'm like, come on.
And like you're also telling me that this child just managed to execute 3 grown adults with such ease. This child is unscathed. And now he's plotting to blow the fucking house up. I mean, like he's got a whole plan. But you're telling me that these 3 were all so like incompetent that not one of them managed to at least get the fucker knocked down on the ground, you know? I don't understand. Like, I know, I get it. He's smarter than the average child. He's also a petite 8-year-old boy.
80
Get your
it's a
shit together.
75-pound 8-year-old boy. I mean, you put up a fight. I feel like every character in this film, the last 15 minutes, it becomes completely fucking stupid. Even Roger, and I hate to say this, even Jesse. And we'll get to there in a second. But yeah, so now everyone's dead. Gilder's dead. He's pulling bodies around. He does put the phone back on the hook finally, so that when it rings and it's Neil, and you know, Mikey's like, "Oh, when are you going to be home?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to be home in a minute. Where's your mom? Put your mom on." He's like, "Oh, mom's not feeling good." And he's like, "Mikey, it's feeling well." And he's like, I can't wait till you're home, Dad." And then we see him like combing his hair, putting gel in his hair. And the next thing you know, he's ringing the doorbell at Jesse's house.
Do you notice that when he was doing his hair in the background, if you looked in the jacuzzi, it was blood red? And like you never saw the body or anything. Maybe it's implying that he like washed the blood off or something. But I was like, oh, well, there's something there. I feel like there's something there that got cut or we didn't see. But yeah, he shows up at the house. What balls this kid has to fucking show up after all this shit, slick his hair back like Val Kilmer. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
By the way, we lost a good one. Rest in peace. Show up there and try to seduce this girl after all this nonsense. This kid has some cojones.
On one hand, I like her response because she immediately is like, "Mikey, get out of here. I don't want to see you." She slams the door in his face. Okay, great. She goes upstairs, lays in her bed, shuts the bedroom door, turns around. Mikey's there. And she's like, "Mikey, how did you get in here?" And he's like, "My secret way." She's like, "Well, you got to get the fuck out." And she literally like grabs him and pushes him out of her bedroom, shuts the door, and locks it. Okay, another great decision, Jesse. Perfect. The second she hears the TV loud downstairs, what does she do? Opens the door. Why? You know it's him. Like, you know it's him. If you think that this kid is a killer and he killed your boyfriend and he's sneaking into your house, why are you opening the door and going down there? But she does. She goes down there and like, she's like, "Mikey, I know it's you. What do you want?" And then he drops like a marble or something from the upstairs. And she's like, "I'm going to get you, you little shit." She runs upstairs. That fucking picture that he was first enamored with her by is now pinned to her bedroom door. Now he has himself, a picture of himself, cut out and taped next to her like they're a couple.
Oh, he is beaming. Like I love this photo. He looks so happy. He is so convinced that they are in love. But I mean, at this, yes, I am annoyed that she went downstairs, but also like I don't think she understands the full severity of what all has transpired. She's about to, though. She's about to. Like Jessie goes, she's the closest we get to like final girl territory in this movie. She really is. And like they have like a brief kind of moment here, but overall, I like how she plays into what happens. You know, I like the fact that he's toying with her, and then Neil comes home, and she sees this starting to unfold, and she's trying to warn Neil. I think it's for as many hiccups as the finale hits. This whole last beat with Neil, I think, is actually quite impactful.
I do too. We can't skip over the fact that he does shoot her with an arrow. It misses and it hits the picture.
Yes,
because she gets into her room just in time. But then that's the only interaction that we have. Like nobody, I guess what I'm really craving or what I really wanted was to see somebody fight back. My point is like everyone is just so complacent with Mikey. They're helpless. They don't fight back. They don't do nothing. I needed Ben, lesbian Ben, to come rushing out of his room to protect his sister. I needed something. I needed one of these characters, preferably Miss Gilder, to fight back. You know, at least there's honor in dying and fighting back, right? I could digest that better. But all of these characters just letting this little 8-year-old kid slaughter them, it doesn't sit well with me. And the only one that I can really excuse, I guess, is Neil, because Neil doesn't have time to fight back before he realizes what's going on. But he does come home, and you're right. Jesse's trying to warn him. She's pounding on her bedroom window. All Neil can say, because now Mikey comes out, and he's like, Daddy, you're home. And Jess is banging on her window, and Neil sees her, and he's like, oh, she's pretty, isn't she? He's like, she sure is. I'm glad you're home, Daddy. So he comes in, and it's very sweet. Neil is just overly fatherly in this scene. Like he's Mikey, I'm so glad to see you. Let's go inside. He's just being completely like enamored with Mikey. He loves him. He's giving him all the love in the world. Before Mikey says, Daddy, I got a surprise for you. And Neil's like, oh yeah, what? And he's like, come on. And he motions him to go into the dining room. And basically we get happy birthday to me, because now all of the dead bodies, Roger, are seated around the dining room table. Two things. How did an 8-year-old boy lift a burly gym teacher man onto a chair? And B, I don't know, Neil's reaction is a choice.
It's a choice. I mean, I think like there's something about this ending that feels like it's half cooked. You know, like I think one of the things you pointed out, like Jessie really deserved a bigger moment because she is stepping into the final girl role. Like there should have been more before Neil came home and distracted him, but it's not. And then you've got this whole beat and the reveal, like you said, happy birthday to me. Absolutely. The reveal itself is visually rather striking. Like the shot of her sitting there, of Rachel sitting there with the glass shard, her face all pale. You see the reflection of the marble in Sean's eye with her head rolled back. That visual of, oh my God, I love when he's standing there with his back turned to the coach and you see him sitting at the dining room table
Arrow
with the
sticking
arrow
out, yeah.
extending
It's
out of him.
striking.
It's quite striking. And it really, like, I would have loved to have had more of this approach, you know, for the 10 minutes building up to this. I think, like, you know, finally we're going to hit up some suspense, but it's very short lived. And then you have that big reaction, which, like, I get a big reaction here. Okay, like, yes, this is truly terrifying with the reveal, what he's seeing. But then you've got that like kind of disembodied visual of Mikey throwing the Molotov cocktail, and you don't know really where it's coming from, but he throws it, and the house just explodes. And I don't care where he's throwing it from. Like Mikey would have been launched.
Yeah,
you know, like you don't see it.
That's one thing I didn't understand, because we don't know where he's at, but then we do see, like, it looks like he's inside. Like, I don't know. But again, I'm hung up on how did he get all these full grown adults? How did a little 8-year-old scrawny boy put them all in chairs?
Also, a question for everyone, and if you have the answer to this, please provide that solution in our comment section on our Facebook or Instagram. How the fuck did he get that skeleton in that
We
dining
didn't even
room?
talk about
The skeleton.
The skeleton is from the classroom that he talked to Mr. Jenkins about earlier. Is in one of the chairs. Okay,
No
I
explanation.
don't buy that. I don't know. I know that he's been painted to be. I don't buy that a kid would think to do this. I don't know. Whatever it is, what it is, it's real weird. The weirdest part is, where was Mikey when he throws this Molotov cocktail? Because he kills Neil. Is Neil sitting there hyperventilating? Rachel, that's what he does. It's real weird. But Mikey throws the cocktail. The house explodes. I don't care where he would have been probably killed in the explosion.
Yes.
And, then it cuts to the police are there. Everyone's there. Jesse's there. The detectives are like, yeah, everyone's dead. We don't know. And Jesse's like, well, what about Mikey? And the detective's like, well, we did find a skeleton of what looks to appear to be a young boy. She's like, are you sure? Are you sure? That's it. That's
Okay. First of all, there's no explanation you can provide for me after viewing this film multiple times in which I think it is at all plausible that child could have gotten that skeleton into that fucking dining room. Was it in the car? Were the teachers traveling with the skeleton? Because if so, that needed to be disclosed. To me, from my understanding, that skeleton is back at the school. The only way this child could have gotten that skeleton into that dining room is by dragging that fucking skeleton from the school.
Yes.
To the house. Didn't happen, but okay.
Yeah, because the skeleton was about as tall as he was. Somebody's going to see this kid dragging a skeleton down the street.
Next note I have to bring up. One gas leak explanation later, And you've got this whole moment where they're just kind of saying, okay, well, all these people were at this house. The house blew up. It was a gas leak. One of the bodies was the skeleton. Okay, so he had a plot. I don't know how he executed it. This is what it took for the mom to return. She's there. She gets one of the last moments. They're like, what happened? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, who are you? Blonde, sensible Bob. Oh, yes, you're the mother that we never learned anything about. But she's there. But truthfully, like, with everything that's come into play so far, like this is if you are really going to downplay the existence of the detective roles from earlier, this was a prime moment to tie all these loose ends together, bring that kind of back into play, have a moment with the detective being like, this just all seems really suspicious, all of this happening with the same kid involved. But you get this really kind of toss away moment with Jessie where she's like, are you sure? Are you sure? And like that's it. And then you're on to like what is the closing, like the final moment here with little to no explanation. And it just seems like they really like this movie isn't what I would call necessarily long. It sure ain't as long as this podcast review of it. If they could have given this 5 more minutes and given us a final, like a wrap up conclusion, that would have felt so much more satisfying. And even though that dining room table moment and the house explosion is quite grand and feels like a big finale, the sense of story, I feel very, very unsatisfied in the sense of what they're giving to me as a final like conclusion here. Like what they're providing as the conclusion of the story is not satisfying in the least to me personally.
Yeah, no, this whole climax is a mess. Like, I mean, I enjoy the film, for the most part up until like I don't know, I could shut it off and be content not even watching the last 10 minutes because it's so ridiculous and it just makes me angry because there's literally nothing that makes sense. Like how the characters react, how they don't fight back. And then all these weird things that we're just supposed to buy that he was able to put 4 grown adults around a table, drag a skeleton. And then the worst part of it is kind of the final scene, I guess you want to say epilogue, where we now cut to a different adoption agency when they're telling this lovely couple that, oh, well, he had amnesia. He was found wandering around the highway. We weren't able to find out who he belonged to. Oh my God. Listen, I'm not a detective. The first thing I would do is plaster this kid's picture all over the area and be like, hey, we found this kid. Who is it? Because this kid went to school. This kid, I mean, people know this kid. He was at the zoo. He's been in. So you trying to tell me not one person would not see that and be like, I'm telling you, fucking, you guarantee that like Ben's mom watches the news. Put his picture on. She would be like, oh, that's Mikey.
Well, especially with what just transpired that he was involved with, like several adults were brutally killed in a house explosion. Like, and then this kid shows up out of nowhere, and I'm guessing relatively close to the area, and there's no connectivity between the two at all. That doesn't just sound like bad, like police work. That just sounds like completely unrealistic in general. There's no way a child's going to show up, little white boy. Like, let's be real. Like, especially you've got a random tiny white child showing up on the side of a street on a highway, and they're not going to explore it any further. Bullshit.
It really pisses me off for some reason. I was so angry because the way that the guy is like, there was no way for us to find out who he was. He couldn't have wandered that far. Again, put his picture on the news. Hey, we found this. Are you not that concerned about who this child belongs to? And listen, when we see him, he has not aged. So it's not like it's been like maybe a week and they're already pawning this kid off, adopting this kid off to somebody else without even trying to find out who his real family is by simply putting a picture on the news being like, hey, if you know who this kid is, call us.
Yeah. There's absolutely no way in hell. Like he couldn't have covered that much ground.
No,
he would have to have been relatively close. And then it's these Christians. They're like it's in God's hands now, or whatever they say. They say something about the Lord will see us through. Yeah, okay, good. I hope the same thing happens to you that happened to the last
they
families
changed even the guy's like, well, we couldn't find. We didn't even know his name. We don't know where he's from. So we named him Joshua. We named him Joshua.
That's a good name. Oh, go, yeah. Joshua, Mikey too, Joshua. Like, okay, bring it on. Let's see what happens. It better be more satisfying than this. Because, yeah, someone is not doing their work on the police force to not be able to put these two pieces together.
And then they open the door and there he is. He's like, are you my new mommy and daddy? And the film ends. I'm just going to say it. When we started this podcast, if you were to ask me what is our longest episode going to be, I would never in a million years say Mikey, but here we are. I'm just going to leave it at this. I find a lot of things fun about this movie until the last 15 minutes, and then it tanks the movie for me.
Every episode, Troy and I start off saying, "Oh, this is gonna be a short one," but never did I think that this would be the one, Troy, to push us over the 3-hour mark. But we're about to hit it just now. But yeah, I mean, enjoyable film. I'd watch it again. I'm disappointed with the conclusion, and from the execution to who it is that falls victim. Certain characters I think really should have made it, and just like that's the last note you're going to leave this on. That just seems so unrealistic. Like it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. But I'll watch it again. I'll watch it again. That little fucker, he's up to no good, and I don't mind it. I think it's pretty entertaining. I was really hoping that lesbian Ben would have died, and her lover, the mother with the blonde bob. But no, somehow those two made it out unscathed without any further plot development, and it is mind-boggling. The script here needed some tightening up. It really did. It did not do most of these characters any favors at all, which is disappointing because there is a lot of positives to take away from this as well. Just the script was just it had some Swiss cheese holes in it. I will say that.
Going into it to watch it again, I would know what to expect. Hey guys, if you enjoy killer kids films, this is definitely, I think it's a strong entry. Minus, like I said, the last 15 minutes just really just pissed me off. But Brian Bonsall definitely gives a great performance. I want to like this film a lot more than I do. And again, the only thing that tanks it for me is the climax. It's a fucking mess. It makes zero sense. But everything else up until that point is somewhat enjoyable. I'd give it a suggestion. Let us know your thoughts on Mikey. Leave us comments on, and let us know, because we went way long with this, way longer than I ever would have expected.
Here we are, and we're sure you're all thrilled with the conclusion. But dare I say, not as excited as you maybe for what's going to be next week. I'm just going to say it right now. I think the gays are going to kind of lose their shit.
Well, here we go. We needed something long to welcome you back, as we've been gone for a couple weeks, so I'm not mad about the runtime here. But yes, now it's your turn to quickly let the listeners know what our next episode is going to be.
With Freakier Friday being a thing, and Lindsay Lohan having her renaissance. This is the year of Lindsay Lohan, I'm convinced. I don't think there's a better time to touch base on a film that I think we should have covered a long time ago. It's a film that holds a 3.6 on IMDb and a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's a film that every gay has been waiting for us to cover for so long. Gays, we're finally doing it. We are finally going to review the 2007 horror mystery classic I Know Who Killed Me, starring Lindsay Lohan and The Color Blue. And I cannot wait to talk about this. I say that about every movie, but more than any, Troy, this is the one for you and me. We are going to have a ball, and it'll probably be double the length of this episode.
I'm going to lose my gay card in the eyes of many listeners because I've never seen I Know Who Killed Me. So this will be a first-time watch.
God, that all the more reason, listeners, for you to tune in for this one. Give Mikey another listen through till then. I'm sure you're going to want to spend 3 hours with Troy and I talking about killer children, just like you're going to want to spend 3 hours with us talking about Lindsay Lohan as a stripper with a fake arm. I
am
can't wait.
Sold right there. But yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in. Remember, if you're enjoying the episodes, give us a rating on Apple Podcast, and tune in next week for I Know Who Killed Me. Good night.
Good night.